Good morning to all of those who are tuning in around the world and here on the Rotsee in Lucerne. My name's Camilla Hadland and I'm joined by regular Schweitzer who will be taking you through all of the racing today at the final Olympic Qualification Regatta. The last chance for crews and athletes to secure places on the plane to Tokyo for the Olympic Games.
And I mean, it's only 10 weeks to go and everyone wants to be in that plane, but there is not a lot of spaces left. Can you say a little bit more about who's going to get there?
Yeah, so we've got 2 places up for grabs across most of our boat categories. So 14 boat classes racing here across the next 3 days. But one exception to that, isn't there, regular?
Yeah, and it's an important one for the Swiss spectators joining us today because it's the lightweight women's scull. There we have 3 spots to be distributed today.
Yeah, so a really important regatta here taking place on the Rotsee, as it has done for, well, as long as we can both remember. Athletes have been trying to claim places at the Olympic Games here for many a year. So we're looking forward to bringing you all the action. And to those of you who are tuning in at home, thank you so much for listening to us here. We're going to try our best to bring you all the action and to try and bring you the feeling of Lucerne to your homes. Because I know a lot of you will be very disappointed that you can't make it out here. It's a very popular regatta for spectators to fly out to usually, so very sad you can't be with us, but we'll try and bring the spirit of Lucerne to you at home. But beautiful conditions we've got here, regular, right?
Absolute perfect conditions, good weather and a flat lake, so everything is ready for races to start in almost just about 3 minutes. Es geht nur noch 3 Minuten bis zum Start der heutigen Regatta, hier der finalen Olympia-Qualifikationsregatta auf dem Rotsee.
Our first race is about to get underway here at the final Olympic Qualification Regatta. It's the women's pair first heat, and we've got a 4-boat lineup here to bring you on the start.
Jetzt starten wir gleich mit dem ersten Vorlauf der Regatta und wir haben hier 4 Boote am Start.
In lane 1, we've got Russia.
In Bahn 1, Russland.
In lane 2, we've got Chile.
Bahn 2, Chile.
In lane 3, Croatia.
Bahn 3, Kroatien.
And in lane 4, Germany.
Und Bahn 4, Deutschland.
So just a minute to go here for these 4 crews who will be trying to vie for that spot through to the final that will take place on Monday.
Und soeben sind die Boote gestartet. Sie sind unterwegs zum ersten Vorlauf dieser finalen Olympia-Qualifikationsregatta. The boats just started. Camilla, can you give us an overview?
Yeah, we've got underway with this first race of the day and off to a great start here in this race. It's the crew in lane number 1, Russia. This crew of Elena Zinskia and Vasila Stepanova just out the starts at rate 42, really punching up there at a nice high rating and rhythm. Through 200 metres they go. And next back, I think it's Croatia, the Jurkovic twins, that sit in second place here, regular.
Yeah, but it looks still very tight. We have actually 2 twin sisters in this race. We have the Jurkovic twins from Croatia on lane 3, and we have the Abraham twins from Chile in lane 2. A very close race, and of course the Germans are also in the mix.
Yeah, approaching 500 metres now, and that all-important one slot through to the final, which guarantees your place to race off for Tokyo. There's no prizes here for coming second, and the prize is in fact getting through to the repechage, which one additional race in such an important regatta, probably not where you're wanting to be. As we go through 500 metres, it's going to be interesting to see who's vying for that second place behind the Russians, who still lead out. They've come down now onto 37 strokes a minute, and they go through the 500 at a 143.53. But gosh, that was so close there, wasn't it, regular? Coming through that 500 metres between, the 2 pairings of twins from Croatia and Chile.
Absolutely. Wir haben soeben die 500-Meter-Marke passiert, und am besten gelungen ist dies dem russischen Duo von Oryabanskaya und Stepanova. Sie sind in 1:43,43 über die 500-Meter-Marke. Dahinter eine enge Entscheidung zwischen Kroatien und Chile, und im Moment ein bisschen zurück das deutsche Duo, das trainiert wird von Tom Morris. Es gibt nur einen Platz in diesem Rennen, just one spot. Is it already all set for Russia?
Yeah, I mean, they continue to push away. The meters just pushing back to the rest of the field. They're opening out, if anything, while stepping down on the rating. I think it's early days yet. We've seen crews, especially in the small boats, push through in these middle 1,000 meters. And so if there's a really good race plan in the bag for either Croatia or Chile, and I'd put, if any crew of those two to start to push back up, my money would be on the Jurkovic twins of Croatia. They most recently won the World Cup on their home turf back in Zagreb just a few weeks ago, pretty comfortably. They weren't challenged at all during that regatta, but I think the Russians just too powerful to overcome at this point in the race. They're sitting now just a couple of lengths back on that Russian crew that leads the field, but again, lots of experience here from Elena and Vasilisa of Russia in the bigger boats, regular.
Yeah, but I mean also the Croatian duo, you said it, they're very experienced, like they're rowing together for a long time. These 2 sisters, they were very successful also in junior and under 23 years, so maybe they have the race plan to come back in this race. And as I'm said that, Chile is also still pushing hard for this spot. But having passed the 1,000 meter mark, can you give us an update on the ranking?
Yeah, so through the 1,000 metre marker, through halfway here for these women's pairs, and it's still Russia. They go through the 1,000, 3:33.17 ahead of Croatia, 3:37.93, but just really not much to choose between them and Chile, still pushing up hard in third place there, with Germany sat back in fourth, some distance back, regular.
Yes, und wir haben gerade die 1000 Meter Marke passiert, oder die Boote haben sie passiert, und da ist Russland nach wie vor klar in Führung vor einem engen Duell als Kroatien und Chile, gut 5 Sekunden zurück, bereits ein bisschen zurückgebunden das deutsche Boot mit 17 Sekunden Rückstand bei der 1000 Meter Marke, und es gibt hier nur einen Platz zu holen. There is only one spot in this race to go directly to the final. So let's see what Chile and Croatia have still up on their sleeves.
They're coming into view of us here in the Finnish tower now, and indeed, regular, we're going to have to see what they have up their sleeves here, because they're absolutely level as they come towards 500 metres to go, Chile and Croatia, but that's not good enough to get you through to the A final here in this heat of the women's pairs. Only one place to get you through to Monday's final, and at the moment that still sits with Russia's Aurea Bienskaya and Vasilina Stepanova in the bow seat, taking them towards the line now. 500 metres to go. We're going to get some timings through in just a second. There it is, 5:23.79 through that 1500 metre marker, and wow, they've managed to open up, another few seconds, another second or so across the rest of the field here, regular.
Yeah, and I mean, they have very good memories, these Russian athletes. Tudorose, they were third in the European Championship 2019, probably the last time they raced here. So I think they will really fight hard to defend this leading position.
But it is all heating up behind the Russians. If they were to look to their left right now, they'd see an absolute bun fight for second place. I think at the moment it's just a case of that race experience for these two younger crews. Croatia, these Jerkovic twins, so comfortable usually, but at the moment being challenged very heavily. And I think actually Chile's managed to push through in this final 250 metres regular to put themselves into second place.
Yes, I definitely think Chile had pushed through, and Chile is also here with a very good boat speed. They are all level rating at 37, 36 rates a minute. Will they be able in the last 200 meters to still attack Russia? We will see.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that is very clear here to us in these red buoys, this final 250 metres, is just how calm the Russians are as they come through towards the line. They must have about 25 strokes to go now, and they've barely raised their rating. They're now at 37 strokes a minute, just 1 pip higher than the bulk of their race pace, but they're just floating forwards. They look as if they know they've got this one in the bag and reserving their energy for the final, pushing the others into the repechage. And indeed, it is going to be Chile coming through. They've managed to still get some overlap back with the Russians, who have just stepped down somewhat again to know that they've secured that place over the line. So it's Russia that take that spot into the A final ahead of Chile with a great third 500 and last 250 to put them clear water ahead of the experienced Croatians, and then Germany now with their final few strokes.
Es sind die Russinnen, die in diesem Rennen mit einem Startzielsieg hier souverän diese direkte Qualifikation fürs Finale geholt haben. Dahinter haben sich die Chileninnen auf den zweiten Platz vorgearbeitet vor Kroatien und vierter Rang für Deutschland.
We're already almost at 500 metres now, and in fact through the 500 metres with that second heat of the women's pair, the same format, one to go through to the final and the rest to repechage. And through 500 metres it's the Czech Republic leading out the way ahead of Denmark. It's then the Netherlands in third place and Norway in fourth.
Und 500 Meter sind bereits gerudert in diesem zweiten Vorlauf der Frauen Zweier ohne. Nach 500 Meter in Führung die Niederlande vor Dänemark, der Tschechien und Norwegen.
Much closer out at the front of the field here, actually, regular with this one. And we've not seen quite such a dominant crew leading through that 500 metres. The Czech combination of Flamakova and Sanchokova are, well, they're a young pairing, only 20 years old, Annetta Sanchokova in the bow seat, but a recent junior world champion in this boat class. She's certainly got experience in oodles, but for such a young athlete to be out chasing down the Danes, it's going to take some guts now to try and catch up to the formidable Fie Udby Eriksson that strokes the Danish crew. That's a name that you don't expect to see at the final Olympic qualification regatta, is it?
Yeah, I mean, she is an Olympic silver medalist in the single, and she was also still in the single at the European Championship. But she decided to pair here with her partner, who is a very experienced partner in the pair, and that they are leading now after 900 meters almost. That's it's not a surprise.
Yeah, we're almost at halfway here now, and Denmark just starting to step away a little bit more. I think that the Czech Republic, after a really gutsy first 600 metres, just falling off the pace somewhat and slipping back into the pack, giving Denmark the opportunity to stretch out now almost, just over 4 seconds ahead now of the Czech Republic. This Danish crew, as Regula just mentioned, the silver medalist Fie Udby Eriksson in the stroke seat, switching from sculling to sweep here for this regatta, but joined by a very experienced sweep athlete in Hedvig Rasmussen. She was part of that really successful Danish women's four that we saw in the 2019 season. They had a really great year, so it's been really interesting actually to see the Danes break that combination up and sort of scatter them about the sculling and sweep team, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's really like it's going to be so interesting for the whole regatta to see all this new combination. I mean, there's so many combinations we haven't seen, athletes we haven't seen at elite level yet, but it definitely looks like a successful program so far. So they are still in the lead, and they are pushing away from the field. So it's quite a wouldn't say comfortable lead. You shouldn't say a comfortable lead if it's still 700 meters to go, but they are ahead of the pack here, definitely.
Yeah, their coach Mads Pettersen Halbro of the Danish crew is going to be looking on pretty pleased with this new combinations performance as they now start to extend. And I shouldn't have spoken too early about a sort of really huge lead and huge margin in this race. It was too early days, as they're now stretching out even more so as they come towards 1,500 metres gone. Best of the rest at the moment, well, it is still the Czech Republic. They've not fallen off the pace so much to slip back any further through the field, but it's then the Dutch that sit in third position. And talking of new combinations, a newcomer into the bows of this Dutch crew, Eve Stewart, guiding them down the course, and but sat in third place at the moment, so looking that they may have to go through to the repechage with Norway and the Czech Republic. But through 500 metres to go now, Denmark, wow, what a lead this is, almost a full 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. That's pretty comfortable there for this crew of Eriksson and Rasmussen.
Die Boote haben soeben die 1500 Meter Marke passiert und in Führung ganz deutlich mit fast 10 Sekunden Vorsprung das Boot aus Dänemark mit der Silbermedaillengewinnerin im Einer Fie Udby Eriksson und ihrer Partnerin Hedvig Rasmussen, eine sehr arrivierte Zweier- oder Riemenruderin. Sie sind da klar vor dem tschechischen Boot im zweiten Platz und auf Rang 3 Holland und 4 Norwegen.
Now, I know rating is a very personal thing for a crew as to what makes the boat run smoothly and move well, but this pairing here of the Danish crew out in front, down at 33 strokes a minute, I mean, that is 3-4 pips lower than we saw the Russians at in the previous heat, and even they looked relaxed. So this crew now coming into sight of us here in the finish tower, looking so long, and you can just see the open space that they've got behind them here, Regula. They're miles ahead coming into this final sprint in inverted commas. They're not sprinting one bit because they know they've got this in the bag, saving that energy for the final on Monday, and I don't think anyone's catching them now.
No, and I think it's amazing to see how comfortable they feel. I mean, they haven't raced together, as far as I know, in the pair any race, so I think it's such a technical, challenging boat class, so it's really amazing that they can go racing like this in such an important regatta as well.
No, you're so right. And that was the beep there to signify that Denmark crossed the line in first position, that all-important first position through to the A final. It's then going to be I believe it looks like the Czech Republic still holding on ahead of the Netherlands. Overlap there by the line. Netherlands over in third. And then we're just waiting for Norway's last 5 strokes or so to take them into fourth place here in this second heat of the women's pairs at the final Olympic Qualification Regatta.
Unverändertes Bild im Ziel. Die Däninnen haben dies sicher nach Hause gefahren, respektive sich sicher in den A-Final gefahren. Im zweiten Rang dann gefolgt von den Tschechinnen und Rang 3 für Holland und Rang 4 für Norwegen. Diese Boote werden den Hoffnungslauf bestreiten.
So again, we're just through 500 metres now where we're joining the men's pairs. This is the first heat of the men's pairs. The first 3 go through to the AB semi-finals in this event. To give you a rundown, we've got Denmark in 1, Chile in 2, the USA in 3, Russia in 4, and Indonesia in 5. And through that 500 metre marker, it was the Danes that took the top spot, closely followed by the United States. Good to see them here racing at this regatta after a long break. And then in third, we've got Chile.
Und wir sind jetzt im ersten Lauf des Männer-Zweier ohne, bereits unterwegs bei knapp 800 Meter. Bahn 1 Dänemark, Bahn 2 Chile, Bahn 3 die Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika, Bahn 4 Russland und Bahn 5 Indonesien.
So a little bit of a tighter field here. The leaders Denmark with just over a length or so ahead of the USA that sit in second. Both very experienced combinations here. The Danish combo of Joachim Sutton and Fredrik Visterval that sit in lane 1, 8th at the most recent European Championships in Varosi. So they're well raced, they're well practiced, which the US, as we've just said, not a race in this combination yet. So certainly will give them the advantage. But as we go through the regatta and the crews get a few more races under their belt, I wouldn't be surprised to see Thomas Peszek and Michael DeSanto of the US just kind of grow into their own, especially with the semi-final ahead of us here, Regular.
Yeah, exactly. And the crews just passed the 1,000-meter mark. It's Denmark in the lead and followed by the United States and Chile. And it's like 3 spots for the semi-final. Do you even think that some crews maybe be happy to race repechage?
Do you know what? Actually, we were talking about this before I came out to Lucerne with a couple of friends. And we were saying, for some of these crews that are coming across from outside of Europe, particularly the US, the South Africans, the Aussies, the Kiwis, it's going to be really tough because they've not faced up to anyone other than their internal testing systems. And so actually a bit more race experience and going through the repechage and going through the semi-finals, it might do them good. And we saw quite a similar thing at the European Championships where crews that had raced at the European Olympic Qualification Regatta then performed really well at the European Championships because they were really experienced and well raced. So yeah, I think for some crews they potentially might be looking to nab a spot in the repechage just to get a few more races in.
Yeah, I mean, I can also believe so because like training, it's good, but it's just not exactly the same as racing. It's always this racing moment that you can only experience while racing, and the race is tight here. That's going on, but it's still Denmark in the lead. They look quite comfortable in this lead, and they are chased by the United States in second place, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. That's it for the moment. The older crews are already a little bit set back.
Yeah, we should probably mention Chile in third as well, who are still clinging on to a spot in the AB semi-final. We need to remember 3 crews progressing through to that semi-final, and the remaining crews go through to the repechage. But all crews racing to the best of their ability, right? As I say, it's not that they'll be wanting to race the repechage perhaps, but it might not be a bad thing if they end up in the repechage because, of course, all the crews here trying to get the best placing that they can, ideally. So as we go through that 1,500 metre marker, and just glancing up to the lake now, it's still Denmark in first. Not as comfortable as perhaps they were at the 1,000, only 2 seconds back. The United States sit in second, but then a bit more of a gap. Clear water back then to Chile that sit in third, Russia in fourth, and Indonesia in fifth.
But yeah, you said something very important. It's 3 spots for the semi-final, and the Russians are definitely in contention for this third spot. So Chile will have to pick up the rate. The Russians are rating a little bit lower at the moment, and the Chilean speed is very good, but this is going to be a tight one for the third qualifying spot for the semi-finals.
So coming into sight of us here in the tower, I can say the Danish haven't been rattled at all by the US. The US seem to have been taking the rating up. They are kind of punching up. They're now at 36 strokes a minute in comparison to, well, the 36 that Denmark are holding. They actually look a little bit more rushed, I'd say. I wouldn't say these two crews were rating the same, looking at them on the lake. Denmark will take that first spot through. It then will be the USA as we come into the final few strokes on the line, and Chile have successfully managed to shake off any challenge that the Russians might have thrown at them. But Russia really winding it down here into the line in that fourth place. Perhaps, like you say, the repechage not a bad place for them.
Ja, und die Dänen haben dies über die Ziellinie gebracht. Sie haben das Rennen gewonnen vor den Vereinigten Staaten, und Chile ist es gelungen, wirklich diese Angriffe von Russland allfällige noch abzuwehren. Russland muss damit als viertklassiertes Boot ins Halbfinale, genau gleich wie in den Hoffnungslauf genau gleich wie Indonesien, das soeben auf die letzten Metern kommt.
So the final crew there completing that first heat of the men's pairs. That was Indonesia coming across the line, who will head to the repechage. But all repechages, we probably should mention there's a change in schedule from perhaps planned. If you've been tuning in earlier in the week, we were expecting repechages tomorrow. Those have now been pulled forward to a next set of racing later on today. So we've got a jam-packed day of racing here on the Saturday at the final Olympic Qualification Regatta. So don't go anywhere this afternoon. We will be bringing you the repechages last thing today, and tomorrow will be exclusively our semi-finals.
Absolutely such an interesting day. Heute also auch noch die Hoffnungsläufe, die stattfinden werden, anders als geplant. Also unbedingt dabei bleiben.
So we're really getting into the guts of racing now with the second heat of the men's pair, as the same progression system to expect here. The first 3 through to the AB semi-finals, with the remaining crews going to the repechage. In 1 we've got Poland, in 2 China, in lane 3 Great Britain, and in lane 4 Brazil.
Und wir sind im zweiten Vorlauf des Männer-Zweier ohne. Auch hier die gleichen Qualifikationsregeln. Rang 1 bis 3 fürs Halbfinale. Und Rang 4 geht in den Hoffnungslauf. Bahn 1 haben wir Polen, Bahn 2 China, Bahn 3 Großbritannien und Bahn 4 Brasilien.
And we're now almost at 800 metres gone, and it's Great Britain in lane number 3 that have a fairly substantial lead over Poland that sit in second place. This combination of Balding and Glenister for Great Britain won the B final at the European Championships just a few weeks ago, but they were really hard done by. They just missed out on the A final, having put in a really huge sprint to try and gain a place there. So they won the B final, but I'd say one of the favourites here in this men's pair event to take one of those slots. But it's so competitive, isn't it, Regular?
Absolutely, and we also see it here. I mean, you said it, they missed out on the final by so little in at the championships, and it's just these boat classes. It's always like a little bit that decides. So everyone also has to be ready on the day. And I think for most of the crews here, next Monday is one of the most important days of their season.
Yeah, and especially for a country like Great Britain, where a lot of the crews have already qualified via the World Championships in Linz back in 2019. You know, they've got a big team going to the games already. These few crews that are yet to qualify, hugely important for the team. But, you know, I guess the same goes for some of the smaller countries as well, or some that aren't sending as many, is that they're just all such vital places, aren't they? Like whether you're a big country like a Great Britain, China here also in this race, trying to vie for one of those top 3 spots, or whether you're a country only trying to send one boat to the games, they're all such crucial spots here. So every race counts here on the Rothsee. And as we go through that 1,000 metres, it's still Great Britain with just over a length lead ahead of Poland that sit in second. In third, it is China that sits in lane number 2. This combination of Chen Shenzhen and Zhao Jingbin sit Chen in the bow seat, an ex-lightweight actually, who's now coming into the pair to try and contest for the open weight category. And this combination last raced in this boat class back in 2018, so it's been a really long time for China since they competed here in Europe, right?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do today, and especially as you said that we have lightweights in the boat. I mean, he won gold at the World Championship back 2019 in the lightweight quadruple scull. So it's very interesting to see them in this boats class. But also very interesting are the standings, because it's a very hard fight for the third spot, I'd say. In the lead, we have still Great Britain, and we followed by Brazil, actually, that took up. And that's basically very impressive to say. And then we have a very narrow decision between Poland and China for now.
Yeah, that was a hugely impressive third 500 there for the Brazilian combination. They've pulled themselves up from fourth at the halfway point to second now in a qualifying position here in this men's pair event. William Gireton in the bow seat won the final Olympic qualification regatta as a lightweight back in 2016 before Rio, so he knows what it feels like to have success here on the Rothsee, and especially when it matters most to get that ticket to the Olympic Games. So they've pulled themselves up, not close enough yet to take the win. The Brits still looking fairly comfortable in lane number 3 with the lead, but it is all changed behind them. Brazil still in second place. They're up at 40 strokes a minute now as they come into 250 metres to go, but China up at 42, Poland up at 40. It's going to be so close for that third spot through to the semi-finals here.
Was für ein Rennen. Die Brasilianer haben sich auf dem dritten 500 auf Rang 2 vorgeschoben, aber es schiebt sich alles zusammen. Die Briten haben einen Vorsprung, aber dahinter sind die Plätze noch nicht vergeben. Wir haben 3 Boote für 2 weitere Plätze im Halbfinale.
This incredible race for the 3 places through is closing them around Great Britain, who pierce through the water in first place position. They've got a length on the field, but Poland now coming back. I think Poland are going to move into second place position, down from fourth. This is all changed. This is going to be on the line for the third place between China and Brazil. I cannot tell you who got that. That was such a sensational race, right down to the wire for those final few places. What I can tell you is Great Britain certainly with that first spot through to the AB semi-finals. It's then Poland that secure the next place through, and we're just waiting on confirmation. And there is China with an incredible sprint there. They closed out in the last 2 strokes, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking for the Brazilian for the first time. They did such a great race, especially on the third 500 meters. So, yeah, but that's just a little taste of what we can expect the whole weekend.
That is such a great sentiment, actually. If that's what we've got to come, that was just in a heat, and this is such a brutal regatta. You miss out on something like that to get you into the AB semi-finals, and it can put you out for the rest of the week when it really does matter the most, right? You're only as good as your last race, and it's going to be quite something to tune into over the next few days. But just to confirm there, Great Britain, China and Poland with those top 3 spots. Brazil, that was heartbreaking, just missing out after sitting in second in that fantastic third 500. I do feel sorry for them, but they have got the rep to still try and secure those places through to the AB semis.
Und es war ein ganz spannendes Rennen. Sie haben es mitbekommen, Großbritannien hat gewonnen, ganz knapp dann dahinter eine enge Entscheidung. Polen im 2. Rang, China im 3. Rang und die direkte Halbfinalqualifikation verpasst damit Brasilien.
So, how to follow that race? Well, we've got the second heat here of the men's pairs. In lane 1, we've got Slovenia. In lane 2, Germany. In lane 3, the Netherlands. And in lane 4, Hungary.
Und wir kommen zum dritten und letzten Vorlauf des Männerzweier ohne. Bahn 1 Slowenien, Bahn 2 Deutschland, Bahn 3 Holland und Bahn 4 Ungarn.
So another crew that's a hot pick for this event, the Netherlands in lane number 3, currently leading the field, 37 strokes a minute, the fastest boat speed on the course. Guillaume Kromenhoek and Nicky van Spreng in this Dutch crew have really set the water alight over the first 500 metres there. They've pushed out now to over a length lead ahead of Germany that sit in second, and top 3 again going through here to the AB semi-finals.
In dieser Bootsklasse wieder das Gleiche. 3 Boote gehen direkt in die Halbfinals und da sieht es im Moment ganz gut aus, aber wir haben es vorher gesehen, es ist immer bis am Schluss spannend für das deutsche Boot mit Dunkel und Kammann. Sie sind aktuell Zweite bei rund 900 Metern oder nach rund 900 Metern. Angeführt wird das Feld aktuell von den Holländern, dahinter das deutsche Boot und die Slowenen.
So the Dutch crew continuing to push out more water ahead of the rest of the field. They're looking to do what Great Britain did in the former heat, and they go through the 1,000 metres, 3:14.59 ahead of Germany in second and Slovenia in third, but only just. That really is where the fight is on once again for that third qualification spot, and Slovenia are going to have to keep an eye on Hungary the whole way down this course. They won't be able to, just let them roll away, and Hungary will be really chomping at the bit for that next spot through to the AB semi-finals. This crew 28th at the 2019 World Championships, but world champions in the pair back in 2017, the Coxed pair that is, in fact, not the Coxless. So they know what it feels like to be on the podium, but the Coxless pair perhaps a little bit different to what they'd have experienced having someone in the bows with them.
Yeah, I mean, the boat is lighter, so maybe they have still some more energy to come. We have seen the Brazilians before with an amazing third quarter of the race, so maybe they can come back and push into contention here. But for the moment, it's still not a comfortable, but it's still a good lead for the Netherlands in front of Germany, that is now challenged also a little bit by Slovenia. But the Hungarians definitely need to start now if they want to come back into contention here.
Yeah, they will be sad to miss out. The Hungarians have qualified via the FOQR before. Back in 2016, they did the same thing for Rio, and they went on to come 9th at the Rio Games. So they will be very disappointed if they can't replicate that performance here in 2021 in Lucerne. Still in the front of the field, the Netherlands have just crept a little bit more water between themselves and Germany. 4:56 now going through the 1,500 metre marker to Germany's 5 minutes 0.96 as they sit in second. In third, still Slovenia. They're still not comfortable over Hungary. It's only a couple of seconds separating them, and as they come into view of the finish tower here on the Rotsee, I can just see that dominance that the Dutch have got over in lane number 3. And again, interesting to see yet another crew where somebody's come out of sculling. Nicky van Spreng, who sits in the bow seat, out of the double, Kromenhoek in the stroke seat, in from the single, and to make a very good pairing. We saw that with the Danish women's pair as well, out of sculling into sweep. Do you think that's going to be quite popular here at the FOQR?
I mean, I think there is so many options, and they had some time to adapt to the different rowing styles or disciplines. But I also think it's an amazing ability of these athletes to just switch.
I think something has happened to the Hungarian crew. They're now down at 23 strokes a minute. They've dropped right off the pace in lane number 4. We can just see them trailing, leaving the other 3 boats to almost automatically qualify for the AB semi-final. Really unsure what's happened there. But that's not stopping them from racing. Slovenia coming right back up into it. Nick Krebs and Jaka Kass now really going for the line. They're up at 42 strokes a minute. They've got overlap on Germany that sit in second, but the Dutch unfazed, unflustered. They've got a length now as they come over the line in first position into the AB semi-finals. Germany just winding it down a couple of strokes early. Same for Slovenia. I think they've all realised that those spots are pretty safe and secure for tomorrow's semi-finals.
Ja, und die ersten 3 Boote sind über der Ziellinie. Das ist mit einer souveränen Vorführung. Das sind die Holländer. Dahinter gut das deutsche Duo vor Slowenien und die Ungarn. Da ist irgendwas passiert. Die haben relativ früh die Schlagzahl runtergenommen und die kommen jetzt noch als Vierte über die Ziellinie und gehen damit in den Hoffnungslauf.
So many races to get through here on the first day of the final Olympic qualification regatta. If you're just tuning in, we're just starting with the men's double sculls now. This is the first heat that we've got. In lane 1, Uzbekistan. In lane 2, Greece. In lane 3, Italy. In lane 4, Estonia. In lane 5, the United States. And in lane 6, the Czech Republic.
Und wir kommen zum ersten Lauf im Männerdoppelzweier. Bahn 1 Usbekistan, Bahn 2 Griechenland, Bahn 3 Italien, Bahn 4 Estland, Bahn 5 Amerika und Bahn 6 Tschechien.
It's quite tight at the front of the field here. Race leaders at the moment coming from lane number 6 and an experienced combination having come off the back of a 5th place at the first World Cup just a couple of weeks ago. It's Jan Sinsebusch and Jakub Podrazol leading the way ahead of the 2nd place crew, the Italians in the centre of the lake in lane number 3, and so tight going through the 500 metre marker. These 2 crews really piercing the front of the field. Back in 3rd as it stands at the moment, well, I think it's the Greeks that are securing that AB semi-final spot if the race were to finish at 500 metres, but 1,500 metres to go here, and as we've seen in the previous few pairs races, nothing is set and over until it's over. So much can change in these small boats over such a short period of time.
Absolutely, and there is only two slots here for the semi-final, so everyone is going to really go for these 2 slots. So for now we have this Czech combination. Podrazil, a very experienced rower. They just combined now. In Zagreb they were 5th. So I think they already have some racing experience this year. So let's see if they can go through with their lead.
Yeah, another crew with an experienced junior in the stroke seat as well. You talk about Jakub Podrazil in the bow seat for the Czech Republic. Lots of experience in the men's pair, but joined by Jan Sinsebusch in the stroke seat, a double junior world champion himself in the men's quad. So some great experience and coached by Michal Vabrausek, who would be very pleased to see them still at the front of the field, even after the Italians continuing to put heat on them through that second 500 of the race. Carucci and Cimento have come out of the lightweight men's quad into this open weight category here, and they raced the Europeans just a few weeks ago again, and they finished with a 2nd place in the B final. So they have had a race out in this combination. They are not like a lot of the other crews we were saying coming in completely blind, so they will have some race experience under their belts in this 3rd 500 to see what they can throw at the Czech Republic.
Und die Boote, die sind jetzt mittlerweile schon im dritten 500er unterwegs. Nach 1000 Meter in Führung das tschechische Boot vor Italien. Also diese zwei Boote da nach 1000 Meter auf einem Halbfinalplatz, aber da will Griechenland selbstverständlich noch ein Wörtchen mitreden. Sie sind da sehr eng dabei und wir haben es gesehen, es geht ganz schnell in diesen Kleinbooten. Also wer hier noch einen guten dritten 500er hervorzaubern kann, der ist dann wieder dabei für den Schlussspurt.
So the first two crews we've just mentioned there, the Czech Republic and Italy, barely separated. The Italians closing back in now in this third 500 metres, barely anything to separate them at all. And they've got the fastest boat speed on the course, Nicolo Carucci and Luca Cimento, now starting to mount their charge early. They want to be in the lead and they just took it there for one stroke ahead of the Czech Republic. This is where they're making their move, where they've planned in their race plan to build the boat speed before that final sprint, and it's really working for them. They're at 37 strokes a minute, just overrating the Czech Republic combination by 1 stroke a minute, and the Czech Republic having to respond here regularly. They've also come up to match the boat speed of the Italians, and they've got a fair distance on the rest of the field. I think they will be the two qualifiers through to our AB semi-final, but maybe they just want to get one over on the other, that mental sort of advantage going into tomorrow's racing.
Yeah, I think you're speaking about something very important. I mean, it's one thing, it's the lanes that they will have in the semi-final, but the other thing is also just the mental advantage that you just mentioned. I mean, it's a mental regatta, if I am allowed to say so.
Yeah, absolutely. We've said this is one of the hardest regattas in the world to come to and to race at, and one of the toughest regattas. And so any advantage you can get over your competition is absolutely needed to be grabbed with both hands. And that's what's being done here by the Italians, who are still trying to chase the Czech Republic, who have just moved back into the lead again. This is a fantastic race for these two crews. They've got lengths and lengths of open water back to third place, who sit, I think it's the USA that sit in third as it stands at the moment, but they're being challenged themselves by the Estonians in the middle of the lake. The Greeks a bit further back. I've potentially got that wrong, actually. The Estonians out back in sixth positions. I was just glancing at the lake. In fact, I think the Greeks in third, and then it's the Czech Republic just trying to push themselves back into first position ahead of the Italians. A really great race from them. That was a big challenge there that the Italians threw at them. Those two through to the AB semi-finals. The USA indeed over in third ahead of the Greeks, and then Uzbekistan just paddling through in fifth position, and we'll complete our lineup in just a few moments' time with Estonia.
Ja, dieses Rennen war ein gutes Rennen zum Sehen, wie viel eben auch mental der Unterschied dann sein kann. Hier die Tschechen haben dieses Rennen gewonnen und sich durchgesetzt gegen die Italiener, die da nochmals wirklich angegriffen haben. Diese beiden Boote gehen direkt ins Halbfinale. Rang 3 für die Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika, Rang 4 für Griechenland, 5 für Usbekistan und als Sechste gerade jetzt über die Ziellinie gerudert sind die Esten.
So we'll look forward to seeing all of those crews back again tomorrow for both the A, B semi-finals, and some actually even later this afternoon for the repêchages. I mustn't forget that those are now later on today. But moving swiftly on to the next of our heats, and again, the same progression system, just 2 spots through to the A, B semi-finals here. In lane 1, Belgium. In lane 2, Russia. In lane 3, Chile. In lane 4, Finland. In lane 5, Ukraine. And in lane 6, Hungary.
Und im zweiten Vorlauf des Männer-Doppelzweier haben wir auf Bahn 1 Belgien, Bahn 2 Russland, Bahn 3 Chile, Bahn 4 Finnland, Bahn 5 die Ukraine und Bahn 6 Ungarn.
Again, tight at the front of the field, and actually 3 or 4 crews vying to try and come out of the blocks here to nab those 2 spots into the AB semi-finals. But Russia making the best of that at the moment. They're up at 40 strokes a minute still, even as they creep towards 500 metres gone. They're trying to overrate their nearest competitor, which at the moment sits in the lane next to them, just to their right, Belgium in lane 1. they're all very tight. They're going through 500. The times, it's 1:31 for the Russians going through 500 meters. But yeah, not much to choose really between the rest of them, Regular.
Nein, nach 500 Metern eine ganz enge Sache. Die Russen hier in Führung, knapp vor Belgien und dann ganz eng Ungarn, Ukraine, Chile und auch Finnland, Entschuldigung, die sind alle da noch dabei. Es geht hier um 2 Plätze für das Rennen. And I mean, the Russians, they've presented themselves very well in Varese. They've made it to the A final. So, I mean, we've talked about it. They have race experience and they're definitely going for one of those 2 qualifying spots.
Yeah, the Russians were one of those crews that hugely improved on their performance from 2020. They did go to the 2020 Poznan Europeans in October of last year. They then came back and made a huge improvement on that performance. They went from 15th in 2020 to 6th, so into the A final in Varese just a few weeks ago. Potapkin in the stroke seat there, just really trying to keep them up at a fairly high rate of striking. They're still up at 38 strokes a minute here in this double sculls event, but it seems to be working for them. They've gained a little bit more distance again over the Belgian combination of Ruben Claes and Pierre Delouf. This combination has been racing together since they were under 23s back in 2017. Such a lovely historic combination here for the Belgians, but they only they placed higher than the Russians actually, in fact, apologies. They came 13th at the Europeans in this year's 2021 Varese European Championship. So they finished back in the B final. So not surprising to see them here being led out by Russia.
And I think it's so good also if you have a combination that rode together for such a long time, you have trust in each other, you know the race planning very well, you know how your partner is reacting. And I think in situation where it's so important to be on the spot, this really also helps the athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially when you're behind, right? I think having a combination that you know well, to have confidence that you can push through if the time comes, and if you've got the sort of endurance to be able to do that. I think the Belgians, if they do want to sit comfortably in second position, they might just be able to do that. But the race that's going on behind them, barely a length behind them between the Ukraine, Chile and Hungary, well, that's quite tight, isn't it? Overlap between all of those crews through the 1,000 metres. In third place at the moment, it's the Ukrainian combination, a first time racing in this combination at the final Olympic qualification regatta, so they'll be pleased to see that they're in the mix and in contention, but a shame that they're not in those top 2 spots. But the race that's going on behind them, as we've seen, you know, if you're in a tight race, that can push you up to the front of the field. And I think, you know, Russia and Belgium can't rest back on their laurels, can they?
Oh, they definitely shouldn't. I mean, it's 600 meters still to go and the other boats are pushing themselves. I think it's only the Finnish crew that has already taken down their rate to 28. They are probably decided to save their energy for later, but all the other crews, definitely. We're just passing the 1,500 meter marks. In the lead, Russia ahead of Belgium, so no changes there. But the Ukrainians in third, they are just 3 seconds behind the Belgium, so 500 meter, it's still 500 meter.
Yeah, they've used that last 500 metres actually to try and pull themselves out of the competition for 4th, 5th and 6th and put themselves into the competition for what matters, which is the 1st and 2nd places. So they've managed to weave their way through. As you say, only 3 seconds back now on those top 2 crews of Russia and Belgium. And as they come into view of us, I can see them on the far side of the lake and they are charging here, Regular. They're up at 37 strokes a minute, but they are one of the fastest moving boats on the course. The Belgians' boat speed's gone up as well. And I think they've realised that they're under pressure here from the far side of the lake.
Yeah, the Belgium, they definitely want to stay in this second spot or even grab the Russians, but they really want to go directly to the semifinals. But the Ukrainian, they are really still the fast-moving boat, so it's going to be close.
The Russians coming into the line here, I think they've got a comfortable enough distance back to the Belgians that they don't have to respond to this charge in speed that they're throwing at them. The Belgians, though, do have something to worry about. The Ukrainians, they won't know that they're as far ahead as they are. I think Belgium have done enough. Still overlap, though, back to Ukraine, who will finish in third. But those top 2 spots, Russia and Belgium ahead of Ukraine in third. A great charge there by the Ukrainians, but not quite enough. We'll be seeing joining them in the repechage. The remaining crews, we've got the Chileans in lane number 3 that will finish in 4th, ahead of Hungary in lane 6. And as you rightly said, regular Finland, who had wound it down sort of earlier on in the course, coming in to complete the field in 6th.
Und dieser Vorlauf gewinnt Russland vor Belgien. Diese beiden Boote gehen direkt ins Halbfinale. Für die anderen gilt der Umweg über den Hoffnungslauf. Rang 3 für Ukraine, Rang 4 Chile, 5 Ungarn und 6 Finnland. I don't have any.
The third heat now, the third and final heat of the men's double sculls, and another 2 crews to find for those A-B semi-finals. In lane 1, Norway. In lane 2, Spain. In lane 3, Australia. In lane 4, Venezuela. In lane 5, Serbia. And in lane 6, Egypt.
Und wir kommen zum dritten Vorlauf im Männer-Doppel-Zweier. Bahn 1 Norwegen, Bahn 2 Spanien, Bahn 3 Australien, Bahn 4 Venezuela, Bahn 5 Serbien und Bahn 6 Ägypten.
And we actually just both glanced at the start list there and went, oh, an Australian crew. It's nice to see them back here after such a long time away, unable to travel because of the pandemic. So great to have crews from further afield back, and same for Venezuela as well, who sit in 5th place position here at the moment. But our race leaders, Spain, out at the front of the field. A great start for them through the first 500 metres. And the double under-23 lightweight world champion in the bow seat, Rodrigo Conde Romero, is going to be looking back to see the Aussies in their wake, which they'll be extremely pleased with, I'd say, given the quality of that Australian crew. David Watts and Campbell Watts back at it again, trying to qualify this boat for the Olympic Games. They've pulled them out of the Australian men's quad in order to try and do that, having already got that boat on its route to Tokyo. They've now got to try and do it again here with the double regular.
Yeah, another boat that it's like really like. I mean, it's an amazing boat to have in this field, and it just shows how good the competition is. And it's the Spanish crew. They are really trying to take this race from the front, and they are still leading, and they are leading with a rate of 37. So I think they're very comfortable. I mean, they are high, but not higher than the rest. But really, the Australian, they are in touch, just a slight margin behind them, but we shouldn't forget about the Serbian that show a really good race, and also the Norwegian, also a nation that we have seen in the past very strong in this boats class.
Yeah, definitely. And nothing is set at all until you cross the line. We've seen that many a times already this morning, but through 1,000 metres, halfway, Spain clinging on to that lead. They've got the fastest boat speed on the course still. They're up at 39 strokes a minute. They're overrating the Australians that sit in second place through that 1,000 metres by 3 or 4 strokes a minute in some cases. The Aussies just sort of flittering between 36, 37. They're at a much more sort of lower rate of striking than the favoured higher rating of the Spanish crew. These 2 crews at the moment look to be 2 A-B semi-finalist crews, but still in close contention. You've already mentioned them, the Serbians, Pivac and Bedic of Serbia, an under-23 world champion in the stroke seat of Viktor Pivac. He'll be wanting to ensure that their bows are crossing the sterns of the Spanish and Aussie crews respectively, but the Spanish crew just keep going here regular. They've pushed out even more. They're now trying to get another couple of metres over the Aussies as they come into 500 metres to go, just to give them some breathing space into the sprint. It's really impressive here that they're leading such an experienced crew.
Ja, wirklich, die Spanier zeigen hier ein ausgezeichnetes Rennen. Bei 1400 Meter liegen sie weiterhin in Führung. Seit dem Start sind sie in Front und sie führen vor dieser What's-What's-Kombination aus Australien. Ganz erfahrene Ruder, die aus dem Doppelvierer kommen. Vierter wurde dann der WM 2019 und damit auch im Doppelvierer qualifiziert, also einen Qualifikationsspot für die Olympischen Spiele schon haben. Aber es ist jetzt gerade die 1500-Meter-Marke passiert und die Spanier weiterhin in Führung vor Australien und die Serben, die hier weiterhin auch noch mitspielen um diese 2 halbfinalberechtigten Plätze.
Well, it's closing up once again, going through 500 metres to go. Foot on the gas now again for the Spanish crew as they go up to rate 40 to try and keep that distance between themselves and David and Campbell Watts in the Australian crew. Still in third place, we've got the Serbians. They've still got a bit of ground to make up if they want to make it into these top 2 spots and avoid the repechage. It's then in fourth, we've got Norway ahead of Egypt in 5th and Venezuela in 6th through that 500 to go marker. And as we look down towards the lake, a great little matchup here between these 2 leading crews, and I think very comfortable. And I've just seen a little turn of speed there in the Aussie crew, looking at the blades coming in and out of the water. I think they've really started to wind it through. This is probably the first proper wind we've seen for a crew trying to break into the lead of the day, and they're trying to overhaul this Spanish crew who is starting to respond regular.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just changing the lead right now. I mean, I think that the Australian were ahead for a very short amount of time. I think it's back to Spanish, but it's too close to call, and they were definitely training their racing skills here because they're certainly qualified.
Nothing to choose between these crews really as they come across the line. It's going to be Spain that just take that first slot through to the AB semi-finals, but a nice little opener for the lungs there for both of those crews as Australia came within, less than a metre, I'd say, of the Spanish there. It's then a close match up to the line, but not too much charging going on here. It's going to be the Norwegians that come across in third. I think that the Serbians in 5 had wound that down completely and utterly ahead of Egypt, and then to complete the field, Venezuela in lane 4 will finish in 6th.
It must have been such a confidence boost for the Spanish crew that they could react to this charge from the Australian and bring home this first victory of the weekend. Also das spanische Team hat also die Vorsprung über die Ziellinie gebracht und sich knapp vor Australien durchgesetzt. Diese beiden Boote gehen direkt ins Halbfinale. Auf Rang 3 Norwegen, Rang 4 Serbien, 5 Ägypten und 6 Venezuela. Für diese Boote heißt es heute Nachmittag Hoffnungslauf.
We've got the first of our big boats now taking on this 2,000 metres on the Rothsee. In lane 1, we've got the women's fours. In lane 1, Ireland. In lane 2, Ukraine. In lane 3, Russia. And in lane 4, Germany.
Und wir kommen zum ersten Vorlauf im Frauenvierer ohne. In diesem Großboot geht es darum zu gewinnen. Der erste Platz geht direkt ins Finale. Alle anderen gehen in den Hoffnungslauf. Wir haben Bahn 1 Irland, Bahn 2 Ukraine, Bahn 3 Russland und Bahn 4 Deutschland.
So we're coming into 500 metres gone, and we'll be able to bring you the timing markers in just a second. But Ireland out in the lead, a really exciting combination here for Ireland, coached by Giuseppe De Vita over in lane number 1. They will be riding high off the back of their silver at the European Championships in Varese, which was such an impressive row from them. I think they must have bags of confidence coming into this final Olympic qualification regatta that they really can get themselves on the plane to Tokyo. They sit ahead of Ukraine, who go through 500 metres in second position, ahead of Russia in third and Germany in fourth.
Und eine erste Standortbestimmung zeigt, dass die Irinnen, die mit EM-Silber hier angereist sind, auch gleich die Führung übernommen haben und sie sind auf Rang 1 nach 500 Metern und Rang 2 für die Ukraine, Rang 3 für Russland und im Moment auf dem 4. Platz das deutsche Boot.
Ireland, the fastest moving crew on the water by a fair margin actually. They are pushing on into this second 500 metres. 37 strokes a minute. Emily Hegarty in the stroke seat setting the pace here. One of the two members in this crew from a very successful under-23 combination that Ireland put together for the Sarasota World Championships back in 2019 that clinched the silver medal. Those two joined by Fiona Murta and Afrit Kyo in the bow seat. This crew has just worked really well for the Irish, and as they head now into the 1,000 metre marker, halfway gone, they've opened up quite the lead now ahead of Russia that move into second place, and quite a tight tussle here in the middle of the lake between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine will be sad to see that Ireland just moving away from them really and allowing the Russians to come past them after that fantastic first 500 metres, but with only one place into the final here, regular. I can't see anyone other than the Irish dominating this event.
I mean, I think the Irish are looking good. They have in their backpack some success this season, so they must be super motivated. They had time to train even more after the European Championships. But I mean, there is so much power also in the Ukrainian boat. We have Olena Buryak, which is probably the fastest indoor rower ever. So I mean, they have the power to come back on the second 1,000 meters.
Yeah, they're going to need some of that power. But again, so many powerful athletes in this field. The Russian crew linchpinned in the middle pair from the 8 at the European Championships that they had back in Varese. They've moved Ekaterina and Anna into the 3 and 2 seats for the Russian 4, respectively, to try and bolster up the strength in this combination to try and qualify this boat for the Games. And as it stands at the moment, they are doing a pretty good job of trying to row through the field. They've come from 3rd back in that first 500 metres. They've overtaken the Ukrainians, but Ireland just keeps stepping away. They're now down at rate 36. They're still the fastest moving boat on the course by quite some way, and this is going to be a really nice row for them to just get comfortable here in Lucerne.
Und es sieht ganz danach aus, als ob sich die Irinnen hier wirklich warm machen für den Rest des Wochenendes. Sie haben hier eine sehr bequeme Führung nach 1,500 Metern, bereits über 6 Sekunden vor den zweitplatzierten Russinnen. Und das deutsche Boot liegt hier zurück. Es ist der 4. und damit aktuell letzte Zwischenrang in diesem Vorlauf. Also das deutsche Boot, das nicht ganz zufrieden war mit dem 12. Rang an der EM, trainiert von Alex Müller, das will hier noch eine Schippe drauflegen, und da bieten auch die nächsten Rennen die Möglichkeit, aber das muss jetzt wirklich dann passieren, damit man hier wieder in Reichweite kommt.
This race is really quite strung out now. It is going to be quite tough for those crews in the middle of the lake with no one around them and no sight on the Irish because they've just moved away and continued to move away. It's going to be really hard for them to stick to their race plan with no one to race. Each of these crews, 2nd, 3rd and 4th respectively, absolutely no one to race against. They've just got open water. The Russians in 2nd place, the same for the Ukrainians and for Germany back in 4th as well, because they've just been blown away by the Shamrock of Ireland that lead the field into the final, Red Boys, and they're actually starting to wind the rating up. They're up at rate 41. I think good for them to get a practice when they're not under pressure here, regular.
So absolutely, they are going through their race plan and they're doing it like very successfully. They just crossed the finishing line and they know first thing on the list is check, it's done, next to come.
Yeah, a little bit of a boat tap there from Afrit Kyo in the bow seat. I think she knows that was a good performance from them to have so much distance. The Russians have only just crossed the line there in 2nd position. It's then going to be the Ukrainians that come across in 3rd. Elena Buryak there, who you mentioned in the stroke seat, trying to power that crew down the course. She actually very recently lost her 2K world record, didn't she, to the Americans. So yeah, it's no longer the fastest on the ergo in the world, but the Germans there completing the field in this first heat of the women's four in 4th position.
Und damit ein souveräner Sieg von Irland in diesem ersten Vorlauf im Frauenvierer. Sie gewinnen vor Russland, der Ukraine und Deutschland.
On to the next heat of the women's fours. Just 3 boats lining up in this heat, with 1 to go through to the final. The rest of the crews to contest the repechage later on today. In lane 1, China. In lane 2, the Czech Republic. In lane 3, Italy.
Und im zweiten Vorlauf des Frauenvierer ohne haben wir auf Bahn 1 China, auf Bahn 2 Tschechien und auf Bahn 3 Italien.
Well, it's been a great start for the Chinese crew as they approach the next timing marker. They've just gone through 500 metres, a split of 1:36.88 to lead by, just under 2 seconds ahead of the Czech Republic and Italy, who are fairly matched coming down this course in the lanes next to one another in lanes 2 and 3. But China, well, again, we've not seen this combination race at all. It's been really exciting to bring back crews that we've just not seen at regattas for the last 12-18 months, and this first outing here for this Chinese combination seeming to be going pretty well. They're now down at 35 strokes a minute. They've got the handle on the field, and with that 1 space through to the final, they can now control the other crews that are next to them as they start to pace their way down this course.
Absolutely, and here maybe also a recommendation for everyone to follow World Rowing on all the different channels, because you learn so much about the teams. And I, for example, when I read who to watch at this regatta, I learned that there is actually a program going on by Sir Stephen Redgrave and Paul Thompson and another British star rower developing here these athletes in China. I don't know, do you know more about this program?
Yeah, so I mean, so Steve Redgrave moved over to the Chinese program just a few years ago now, and he's been leading and building that team into the Linz World Championships, where they had that fantastic performance from the men's double. They've also got the women's quad that has qualified for the Tokyo Games already, so to add a couple more boats to that qualification for Tokyo is going to be a real mission for both Redgrave and Thompson, who are leading that overall program. But this crew, coached by Dai Heisen, now still 35 strokes a minute, still leading down the track. They're no longer the fastest moving boat on the course. I think the Italians trying desperately to cling on to the lead that the Chinese are developing. The Czech Republic have been dropped off the back of this field. It's now the Italians clambering to try and get back on terms. They are closing down some distance. I do keep having a glance to see that they're now up at 39 strokes a minute. That very, very stylistic point that the Italians always have, which is high rating, very punchy, very powerful, and they've continued to do that through the 1,000-metre marker. They're only a couple of seconds off China now. Do you think that they can do this in the third 500 here, regular, or?
I really think it also depends on how successful this charge is now at the 1,000-metre mark. If the boat really realizes that they get back in contention, then absolutely they can do it. But the Chinese, we don't see them yet, how they are rowing, but they're still in the lead, still having a good speed. But the Italians are the fastest moving boat with the highest rate, so definitely everything in for the Italians.
Yeah, the Italians are closing. Every time I take a glance up the course, every time I have a look at the data that I've got in front of me, they are continuing to make movements. And that what was a sort of 20-metre gap that the Chinese had at 500 metres, almost at the halfway, is now closed to barely a second that they've just now got over the Italians. And they are going to have to respond. They're still down at 36 strokes a minute. The rating is starting to creep up. Wang Fei in the stroke seat now, having to try and do her best to respond to what the Italians are doing on the far side of the lake. Rate 40 now. Aisha Rotchek in the stroke seat, the junior world champion for Italy, trying her best to use that experience to close them down, and they've taken the lead now, Regular.
Ja, in diesem Moment haben die Italienerinnen, die wirklich seit der 1000-Meter-Marke hier angreifen, die Führung übernommen. China, die so stark rausgekommen sind. Sicher, es gibt hier nur einen Platz. Die Chinesen wollten den verteidigen, aber die Italiener mit einer sehr hohen Schlagzahl. Sie sind hier mit 42 Schlägen in der Minute unterwegs und haben nach wie vor auch den höheren Boatspeed. Also das sieht ganz, ganz gut aus für die Italiener.
The silver medalists from the 2020 European Championships, Italy now being in the lead and having their bow balls out in front when it counts most, and nothing from the Chinese to respond whatsoever. It's really just slipping away from them with every single stroke. The Italians going through the motions. They've practiced this sprint so many times at the Europeans. They've been racing consistently, and 43 strokes a minute from where we can see it here on the course really doesn't look flustered. It looks powerful as they come now into the line, and they've gone from being lengths of water back to now 3/4 of a length up on China as they go through the line to take that all-important one spot through to the final. And that must have been devastating there. That Chinese crew led for 1,500 metres or so, and just goes to show you it's never over until it's over, right?
And that's so true. I mean, couldn't say that better. And it's just next race, next chance. But for now, well, on the Italians, also die Italienerinnen, die haben das wirklich nach Hause gebracht. Ganz große Leistungen, insbesondere auf den 4. 500 Meter. Italien gewinnt und geht direkt ins A-Final vor den Chinesinnen und den Tschechinnen, die damit in den Hoffnungslauf verwiesen werden. From women's fours to men's fours now, as we move on to the first heat of the men's fours. In lane 1, Ukraine. In lane 2, Russia. In lane 3, Belarus. In lane 4, Lithuania. And in lane 5, China. And we've got another 3 crews to find here for the AB semi-finals, Regular. Und wir kommen zum ersten Vorlauf im Männervierer ohne. Auch hier gibt es wieder 3 Plätze für das Halbfinale, für die Qualifikation fürs Halbfinale. Und wir haben auf Bahn 1 die Ukraine, Bahn 2 Russland, Bahn 3 Weißrussland, Bahn 4 Litauen und Bahn 5 China.
So all a bit close to call here, really, in this first heat of the men's fours. This is certainly the tightest I've seen it at 500 metres between all crews in the race. The leaders at the moment, the Ukrainian crew, fresh from a 10th place at the European Championships, and currently leading the field, but only just. It's Belarus in lane number 3, 9th at the European Championships, so they were ahead of the Ukrainians just some weeks ago. This stern pair of the Belarusian crew looking to try and break down this lead that the Ukrainians have. Sharlap and Pesovic in the stroke pair, in the stern pair for Belarus, have experience from the Rio Olympic Games, so they won't want to miss out on Tokyo. They were in the four that came ninth back in Brazil, and certainly now with a place on the line for Tokyo, they'll be trying to take their bow pair through into the semi-finals and then the finals for this event. But as we look back towards the race that is unfolding, the Ukrainians still out in the lead as we go through 1,000 metres, that halfway marker, but they've barely got any breathing room. Belarus still in second. In third, we've then got the Russian crew, which again, another crew that's coming together for the European Championships in 2020. They stepped on to make an A final performance back in Varese, and so to be in this top three here, I think we'd expect them to do pretty well.
Ja, wir sind im Vierer ohne und wir kennen das jetzt aus Schweizer Sicht sehr gut mit dem Schweizer Boot, das ja bereits qualifiziert ist. Diese Rennen sind einfach immer ganz, ganz eng und das trifft auch hier zu. Da gibt es eigentlich gar nichts zu entscheiden in den ersten 1000 Metern. Nach 1000 Metern war die Ukraine in Führung, aber alle Boote innerhalb von gut 2 Sekunden. Also da kann noch alles passieren. Und im Moment ist es das Boot aus Belarussia, also die weißrussische Boot in Führung, ganz, ganz knapp vor der Ukraine und auch sehr knapp vor Russland, die ja gerade beide jetzt auch an der EM im Einsatz standen. So, I mean, here it's like nothing to choose, and I think also that they could participate some of the boats at the European Championships. Maybe that give them already a little bit of race experience, and in this close situation, this can really help.
Yeah, absolutely. The majority of this field raced at the European Championships, as you say, with the exception of China, that sit in lane number 5, who are still up there and in with the pace. This is really a close race. I think we're going to have to watch for this final 500 metres as I look up the course, all of the crews with overlap, and it's now Belarus that has moved into the lead. We did expect them to be very experienced and to move their way up, but they've managed to overhaul the Ukrainian crew back into second place, but they're holding second place now ahead of Russia, ahead of Lithuania and ahead of China, but it is still so close between all of these crews. Only 3 places to give out at the moment: Belarus, Ukraine, Russia in those 3 places, with Lithuania and China in 4th and 5th chasing.
And it's just a view that you love to see when you're at the regatta. We look out of the finishing tower and we see this lineup of the 5 boats. They're just aligned like it's just really, it's racing time, and I think it makes happy everyone who loves rowing.
It's certainly putting a smile on my face with 250 metres to go. Overlap between every single one of these 4s as they come in to try and find those 3 places through to the A final. And the Russians are charging. The Lithuanians are charging on the far side. They're moving through the pack. The Lithuanians really with speed now. They've gone from sitting in 4th place. They're now arguably trying to go for the win here as they move up alongside the Belarusians. It's going to be so tight for the line. I think they might even take it. Belarus responding now as they come into the final few strokes. With every single stroke, Ukraine trying to claw back as well, but it's going to be Belarus ahead of Lithuania, who great last 250 for them. Ukraine in 3rd. The Russians missing out on that direct spot through to the AB semi-final. They'll have to face the rep after what would have been an exhausting race for them, and quite a disappointment. And then China finishing off the pack in 5th, and the Lithuanians just came from nowhere there, didn't they?
Amazing charge from the Lithuanian, and good on them, good for them. They're like second and they have this spot, like Belarus, you said, and also the Ukrainians. So, also dieses Rennen wurde gewonnen von Weißrussland vor Litauen und der Ukraine. Diese 3 Boote gehen ins Halbfinale. Für die Russen knappe Entscheidung, hartes Rennen, aber als Vierte müssen sie in den Hoffnungslauf, genauso wie das Boot aus China.
So we'll be back with you in just a few moments' time to bring you the next of those heats. So the next of those heats for the men's 4, the first 3 again through to the AB semi-final. in this heat, we've got Croatia in 1, Austria in 2, Uzbekistan in 3 and Canada in 4.
Und wir sind im zweiten Vorlauf des Männervierer ohne. Auf Bahn 1 Kroatien, auf Bahn 2 das Boot aus Österreich, auf Bahn 3 Usbekistan und Bahn 4 Kanada. Und auch hier gibt es 3 Plätze, die direkt fürs Halbfinale berechtigen.
So out in the lead for the first part of this race, it was the Austrian Crew that were under 23 bronze medalists back in 2017. This crew now stepping up to senior level competition. They've not really raced at all this season, but did take a 4th place at the Europeans back in 2020. But they have just been taken by another crew who's not managed to get much racing in this season, Canada, who slip into the lead as we go through 500 metres gone. Still too close to call, really, between these two crews as they match each other, coming through that first timing marker, with 3rd place going to Uzbekistan.
Und 500 Meter sind gerudert, das ist alles auch hier noch ziemlich eng. Die Kanadier, die sind am besten gestartet und führen dieses Rennen an vor dem österreichischen Boot und den praktisch gleich aufliegenden Kroaten und Usbeken.
The Canadian crew still up at 40 strokes a minute as we head towards the 1,000-metre marker, and it's just whether they can keep this pace up. But to be at the lead of this field, you do need to be pretty punchy on the stroke rate, because the whole field, no less than 39 strokes a minute between all 4 of these crews, just trying not to come last effectively. You know, first 3 spots through to this AB semi-final, and the final crew will go to the repechage. But the race to not come last here, regular.
Yeah, and I think we have another Croatian boat in contention here, and I think they have a lot of motivation again from this Zagreb World Cup. They did so well, all of them there. I think there must have been a little boost. Here at the moment they are in 3rd place, so it's looking good for the spot. I think the Uzbekian boat is a little bit in the back, but Canada's still in the lead, and they're just passing the 1,000-meter mark in front of Austria.
Yeah, you're right. I think the Croatians, who sit in 3rd place at the moment, a qualifying spot through to that AB semi-final, if they can keep it after this halfway timing marker, will have given them a real boost. Lovely to have the first World Cup of the season in Zagreb. And again, the middle of this crew, Patrick and Anton Lončarić, who both won the Junior World Championships together, just 20 years of age in the middle of this crew. So their first ever final Olympic qualification regatta. What an experience this must be for them. But as we continue to look at our leading crews, Canada have managed to continue to step on and move away from Austria after that small push that put them into the lead at 500 metres gone, and they've just continued to move away. They're just trying to be that prominent and dominant crew here in this second heat as they move through the boat speeds. They're just trying to pick the boat up again through this third 500 metres to continue to move away, and they're still up at 39 strokes a minute. The rest of the field now just stepping it back ever so slightly into a more consistent race rhythm at 38 strokes a minute apiece. Second place still Austria, and third Croatia. Uzbekistan now falling off the pace after a very pacey first 750 metres. They were right up there in those qualifying spots, but I think the pace just too hot to handle as we now head towards 500 metres to go with Canada in the lead.
Und Kanada auch bei 1500 Metern nach wie vor in Führung, aber ein erfreuliches Bild für das Boot aus Österreich. Im Vorfeld der Regatta, eigentlich in den letzten 2 Monaten, gab es hier viel Verletzungspech, wie ich gelesen habe, aber das Team ist dran geblieben, hat die Motivation nicht verloren und startet hier ganz gut in diese Regatta mit diesem im Moment klaren 2. Rang hinter dem kanadischen Boot. Die Kroaten, die sind im Moment die haben im Moment nicht die Möglichkeit, hier die Österreicher wirklich zu fordern in ihrem 2. Zwischenrang. Also das sieht sehr, sehr gut aus für eine direkte Halbfinalqualifikation für das Boot aus Österreich.
A great performance here from the Canadians, coached by Terry Paul in some great conditions as they come through 250 metres to go. They're initial rivals, Austria, just trying to pace back in these final red buoys, but I think too little too late for them to get back on terms with the Canadians. But less pressure on this heat with those 3 spots to go through to the final. Canada looking so great out in front. This crew just winding down now effectively. The rate 37, they've just been stepping it down with every 250 metres that they go through, and they look so smooth. Lots of time as they come up towards the front end and over the line with a length ahead of early leaders Austria, who will also clinch a space through to the AB semi-finals. It's then going to be Croatia with that third and final qualification spot through to the AB semi-finals, leaving Uzbekistan to push themselves through the rep.
Und damit sind auch die nächsten 3 Halbfinalisten bekannt. Es gewinnt Kanada vor Österreich und Kroatien. In den Hoffnungslauf muss das viertplatzierte Usbekistan.
We'll be back in just a second with the next of our races, the next heat of the men's 4. Almost at 500 metres now. We've got the third heat of the men's 4. Again, another 3 through to the AB semi-finals with the remaining crews to the repechage. In lane 1, South Africa. In lane 2, the Czech Republic. In lane 3, Germany. And in lane 4, France.
Und wir sind im dritten Vorlauf des Männer-Vierer ohne. Bahn 1 Südafrika, Bahn 2 Tschechien, Bahn 3 Deutschland und Bahn 4 Frankreich.
And it's another crew that had a great performance just a couple of weeks ago in Zagreb. It's the French 4 leading out the way here in Lucerne for this third heat of the men's 4 at the final Olympic qualification regatta. Their boat speed looking absolutely fantastic as they come through 500 metres. They've done a 127.03 to that first timing marker, but hot on their heels, a couple of really experienced crews here in Germany. And again, good to see South Africa back here, a boat class that they will be targeting to try and get through the doors into Tokyo 2021.
Absolutely, and I mean the South African crews, they are very good in the 4, be it the lightweight 4 or the heavyweight 4, but everyone knows the lightweight 4 is no longer on the program for Tokyo, so the Swiss with the Rio win will be the last ones to win this boats category at Olympic Games. But let's come back to this race because it's an amazing race, and we have in the lead the French boat, no surprise. It's a new combination, but they after the World Championship where they missed out in 2019, but I think they had a very good season so far with the win in Zagreb and a good position at the European Championship. But they are chased by this South African boat that you mentioned, and also the Germans are still very close on their
Yeah, definitely. The French crew looked so good at World Cup 1, which, you know, the entry was small, so hard to compare them to some of the big players that we had in this event back at the Europeans. It's a very European-centric field at the moment between the British, the Romanians, just lots of talent in the men's 4, but the French looked really good. But just as I say that, as we go through halfway, quietly creeping over in lane 1, the opposite side of the lake, South South Africa have now broken through to take the lead in this event. A great showing from them to be back here on the Rotsey. I'm sure they'll be relishing every single moment of this. Sandro Paolo Torrente in the stroke seat and Carl Schoenby in the 2 seat, both from the 4 back in 2019 at the World Championships, and they've added in the pairing of John Smith and Lawrence Britton, who raced the pair, to try and give this 4 a little bit more strength here for this final Olympic qualification regatta. And I'm sure their coach Roger Barrow are going to be pleased to see them after a hard slog of training by themselves. Now out leading this field and leading what is a very impressive French crew, now by a fair margin. Back in third, it's still the Germans that, again, they've not quite found form in this boat yet. The middle pair of this crew, Max Planner and Felix Wimberger, they were dominant in that men's 8 and were very sad for them, but pushed out and put into the 4 since the 2019 season. And I just don't think they've managed to make this combination quite click yet, have they?
Yeah, I mean, they were not really happy after the European Championship, but they were able to train very well in Ratzeburg. I heard they were on the water every day, so we should still wait for how the regatta is developing, and they're on the 3rd spot now, so in this Qualifying Spot für das Semifinal. Ja, das deutsche Boot liegt nach 1500 Meter auf dem 3. Zwischenrang. Sie waren nicht zufrieden ganz mit der Leistung an den Europameisterschaften, aber sie konnten gut trainieren und jetzt gilt es, diese Trainingsleistungen dann auch wirklich im Rennen umzusetzen. Dafür haben sie dieses Wochenende die Möglichkeit. Im Moment ist es Südafrika, die führen 200 Meter bis zum Ziel vor Frankreich und dem deutschen Boot.
Well, with 3 crews to go through to the AB semi-final, I think it's very apparent here that the 3 crews we have in the lead are winding it down. South Africa out in the lead now at 33 strokes a minute, and it certainly even looks lower than that actually to us here in the tower. They are milking this as they come in front of the media centre here on the Rotsey, in front of the tower. Very lengthy, very smooth, and just enough to keep their lead and not waste too much of their reserves, and they will cross the line in first position ahead of France, who again I don't think showing all their cards here. They're down at 33 strokes a minute. I'm sure we'll have more to come from them in what will be a very competitive, as per every other event, but a very competitive semi-final in the men's 4s. Germany, I think happy enough to secure a place through to the AB semi-final because the Czech Republic just so far off the pace in 4th, but again they're down at 26 strokes a minute. Really, I think they've been down at this rating since the halfway marker. I'm not sure that they really were in with a shot of those top 3 places, and so have just decided to park it there.
Yeah, I really think you're right. I think the other leading crews, they knew they are through, so they just saved the energy for the races to come. It's an amazing field that we see here, so everyone wants to save every little bit of energy they have for the coming races. Das Rennen gewonnen hat Südafrika vor Frankreich und Deutschland. Diese 3 Boote damit direkt im Halbfinale. Für Tschechien geht's in den Hoffnungslauf.
So from bigger boats back down to the small boats again, the smallest of them all, the women's single sculls now on the course. In lane 1, Germany. In lane 2, Ukraine. In lane 3, Kuwait. In lane 4, Norway. And in lane 5, Japan.
Von den Großbooten kommen wir jetzt wieder in die kleinste Bootskategorie, den Vorlauf im Frauen-Einer. Bahn 1 haben wir Alexandra Foster aus Deutschland, Bahn 2 Ukraine, Bahn 3 Kuwait, Bahn 4 Norwegen und Bahn 5 Japan.
And it's the promising young sculler from Germany out in the lead. Alexandra Foster of Germany, just 19 years of age here, leading this heat in the women's single scull, and a junior world champion fresh off the back of her 2019 season. Straight into the senior team and straight into trying to qualify this boat for Germany for the Tokyo Olympics. And as it stands at the moment, she's down at rate 32, really trying to stride out through this 500 metres gone, ahead of, well, in the lane next to her, Diana Dimchenko, a very experienced name to have alongside you from Ukraine. A bronze at the 2018 European Championships in Glasgow. Dimchenko really is one of Ukraine's most experienced single scullers, and she has variable performances, I think sometimes on the podium and sometimes back in the B finals, C finals, but I think will be a strong contender here this weekend to try and claim one of those final spots through to Tokyo. In third, it's Dimchenko, but just slipping ahead of her actually is Yonakawa of Japan, who just trying to push herself into that top two into the A final. This is top two to go directly into Monday's final. We should probably note that slightly different to the last few races we've had, and the remainder of the crews will go to the repechage.
And yes, you mentioned Alexandra Foster. I mean, she's also one to know what to expect in Tokyo, because these Junior World Championships were the test event in Tokyo. So, I mean, she really knows what's there and what's on the spot for her. So she will definitely go after this spot. And I mean, she has also this season, maybe not super happy with the semi-final at the European Championship, but then the B final, she won that race in front of would be Eriksson, a world-class single sculler. So she's definitely one to watch. And she's leading this race. Und bei 800 Meter weiterhin in Führung Alexandra Foster. Sie kommt aus dem Juniorenbereich, U23 letztes Jahr noch als Juniorin gestartet. Ganz, ganz starke Leistung auch hier jetzt in Führung. Sie weiß, was sie in Tokio erwartet. Sie war an der Junioren-WM in Tokio, wurde Weltmeisterin im Junioren-Einer. Und sie führt dieses Rennen vor der starken Japanerin auf Bahn 5. Die hier ein ganz gutes Rennen zeigt auf den ersten 1000 Metern, und dann auf dem dritten Platz die sehr erfahrene ukrainische Einerruderin Diana Dimchenko.
Hey, and that's somebody else who will really appreciate a spot at their home games. Shiho Yonakawa of Japan climbing back now to try and get back onto terms with early race leader from Germany, Alexandra Foster. And Yonakawa, experience from the under-23s and from several of the World Cups in the double scull. She's trying her hand at the single now and going really well, actually. It's a shame because I know that obviously Japan technically qualified a lot of their boats at the Asian Olympic Qualification Regatta, and unfortunately they had to choose which boats to send from that regatta, and so unfortunately Yonakawa missed out. She's now having to come here straight from those championships that only happened a matter of days ago, straight to Europe, and now here trying to lead the field, and she is closing down on Foster of Germany.
And again, here we're talking about mindset. She must have such a strong mindset to push it away that she wasn't qualified in the Asian Qualification Regatta. She's coming here and she's racing for her spot, and she's doing very well. She's really in close contention with the young German sculler. But also Alexandra Foster is doing a great race. She is not getting... It doesn't look like... we're still looking on the monitor, to be honest, but it doesn't look like it from her rate that she's getting any nervous. They're both racing at 32. Alexandra Foster is at the moment the fastest moving boat in the pack, so she's doing a great race. It's obviously her first final qualification regatta for Olympic Games, so a very mature appearance on this very first race of this regatta, I'd say.
Yeah, really mature, and especially where it matters most. You know, she went through the 1,000 meters with real pressure coming from Yonakawa of Japan, but she's managed to move back out again, and that is the sign of a really mature single sculler, someone that can respond even when the going gets tough, and it's just you that has to make those responses. A really mature race plan through this third 500, the toughest of all of them, arguably. If you ask any rower, that third 500 really is where you need to knuckle down and grit your teeth, and she's managed to push off that challenge from Japan and keep the lead, and it's going to be a really interesting final 500 meters now as they come into sight of the finish tower. They're on opposite sides of the lake, so they can't even really see one another. They'll just be in their own boats, in their own minds. Foster still leading ahead of Yonakawa, and these two athletes looking set for those top two qualification spots. It's then Ukraine and Norway that sit in second and third ahead of Kuwait. But a lovely race here from Germany and Japan, respectively.
Absolutely, and they're looking good for these 2 qualifying spots, but it's small boats. Anything can happen. We also have to remember that, but it really, really looks good. So very positive for these 2 athletes. Weiterhin in Führung Alexandra Foster, die hier ein sehr starkes Rennen zeigt, die auch gut reagieren konnte auf die Angriffe der Japanerin. Ob sie die aber wirklich mitbekommt, ist auch fraglich. Sie sind da ganz auf den Außenbahnen, sehen sich kaum, sind wahrscheinlich beide in ihrem Tunnel, machen ein ganz starkes Rennen und sehen vor allem ganz gut aus für diese 2 Plätze, die direkt ins Finale gehen in diesem Fall.
One final push now for Shiho Yonakawa of Japan as she tries to take the lead from Alexandra Foster, and she's just done that now. We're 200 metres to go, and for the first time in this race the lead has changed. It's now Japan with the home games at stake in Tokyo later on this summer. I think she really wants to prove a point here, Shiho Yonakawa, that she does deserve to be there on the start line against the young German who is still up at 30 strokes a minute, but not trying to rise to the challenge that Yonakawa has set down. She's letting her scull away into the lead, not too phased. I think they know these 2 slots have their names on, and it's going to be Japan's Shiho Yonakawa over the line ahead of Alexandra Foster of Germany that will have to settle for second after a great first, 1750 metres. It's then going to be Dimchenko of Ukraine that will face the repechage later on ahead of Norway that round off this first set of the field. We'll have to wait just further back. Alia Kali of Kuwait just approaching 250 metres to go, so we'll bring you any updates from this race, and we'll bring you the start of the next race as soon as we can.
It must be so good to know that you're qualified for the finals, to have one of this spot under your belt. Und es ist die Japanerin, die sich hier ganz am Schluss noch nach vorne geschoben hat. Sie gewinnt dieses Rennen vor Alexandra Foster. Diese beiden Boote gehen damit direkt ins Finale. Für die anderen Boote geht es in den Hoffnungslauf. Wir haben auf dem 3. Platz die Ukraine und auf dem 4. Platz Norwegen. Und die Athletin aus Kuwait, die ist gerade noch daran, auf den letzten Metern zu rudern. Wir geben Ihnen ein Update von diesem Rennen und werden selbstverständlich dann wieder mit dem nächsten Rennen mit Ihnen unterwegs sein.
So the first heat now concluded, and on to the second heat of the women's single sculls. Another 2 direct spots through to the final at stake here. In lane 1, Hungary. In lane 2, Belarus. In lane 3, Greece. And in lane 4, Finland.
Und wir kommen zum zweiten Vorlauf im Frauen-Einer. Auch hier gibt es 2 Plätze fürs A-Final. Auf Bahn 1 Ungarn, auf Bahn 2 Weißrussland, auf Bahn 3 Griechenland und auf Bahn 4 Finnland.
Now another late change of boat class here actually, in our leader from Belarus, Tatsiana Klimovic in the lead, came out of the women's double that she was in all of last season to race the single at the European Championships in Varese, and performed so well that she's now here trying to get that slot for Tokyo at the final Olympic qualification regatta. She finished fourth at those championships, a really strong performance in what was quite a good field, and so trying to replicate that performance here against Greece that sit in second position. These two crews kilometres ahead almost of the rest of the field of Hungary and Finland respectively, and again in second place Annetta Kiradu, another name that has been performing extremely well for such a young athlete, the four-time under-23 world medalist and champion in Sarasota in 2019. She's a real rising star, much like Alexandra Foster in the previous heat. Excited to see more from Annetta Kiradu, who sits in second.
And I think those two athletes, they really have made their mark on the race already. It's looking very good for two spots here. If nothing, let's say, unexpected happens, it's looking good for Belarus and Greece and another upcoming young scholar, as you just said. Wir sind bei bald 1400 Metern im Rennen und da sieht es ganz gut aus für Tatjana Klimovic von Weißrussland und Annetta Kiradu von Griechenland, eine weitere junge Ruderin mit großen Erfolgen in den Nachwuchskategorien. Diese beiden Ruderinnen, die haben wirklich bereits einen großen Abstand schaffen können zwischen sich und den weiteren Athletinnen aus Ungarn und Finnland.
Quite conservative ratings here from these two crews out in front, 32 strokes a minute as they've gone through halfway for Tatjana Klimovic and 30 strokes a minute for Annetta Kiradu. She's such a long athlete, the Greek. She'll really be making the most of that length while she's got so much time and less pressure on her. She's now down at 29 strokes a minute with 500 metres to go. Not the kind of sprinting rates that you'd expect to see at this level, is it?
No, actually, I think this is, it's really, the places are set. They know what they have to do to come across the line. So we talked about it a little bit earlier. I mean, they're going directly to the final. So it's this one race where they will have to become first or second. So they will save everything they can for this race on Monday. So that's probably what they're doing now, isn't it?
Yeah, especially Annetta Kiradu. I think she's got so much experience in the single scull that she'll know exactly what she needs to do. It's not like she's been out of racing. She raced back at Poznan at the October 2020 European Championships, and she placed third in that event. So she's really she's had a couple. She's had a race while she's been during the pandemic, and she knows that she can perform well. Back-to-back medals at under 23s. She's such an experienced athlete, and Tatjana Klimovic as well. Their women's double was a pretty solid combination. Another experienced athlete, and she's just got to get her handle on the single scull and keep stepping on. But these two athletes really far clear, lots of clear water back to third place position that now sits with Finland's Eva Karppinen and daughter of the great Pertti Karppinen in lane number 4. I'm sure he'll be tuning in, watching to see how she fares at these final Olympic qualification races, but more to come from her, I suspect, as she goes through these rounds. And a little sprint finish here we're being treated to between these two athletes.
Yeah, I think the Greek athlete want to come has picked up her rating, but it wasn't like early enough. It was a close call, but Belarus still made it. She should have picked up her rating earlier if she wanted to have the win in this race. It's about the distribution of the lines for the final. Do you think it really matters which line you have in a final?
I think that you obviously should race for the best placing that you can in any race, right? And all of these senior athletes will definitely be looking to do that. But lane position, but also just position overall, times are so important, because if at any point the weather turns or we're unable to race, some of these Olympic qualification spots could be done on time alone, right? So you've got to race for the fastest time at every single event, every single race, every heat, every semi, every rep, just in case, right? Like, you can never fall back on, as we've learnt this year, right? Expect the unexpected, and that's certainly something that all of the athletes here should be doing, racing their absolute best with every single stroke, just to ensure that should anything happen and should we need to change anything, that they've performed to the best of their ability.
I definitely agree. We all learned in these unprecedented times that you should expect the unexpected. So race for it. And I think everyone here is racing very hard for it. So I'm very happy to see those races and to see them happening actually. Und gewonnen hat dieses Rennen den zweiten Vorlauf im Frauen-Einer Belarus vor Griechenland. Und diese beiden Boote gehen ins Finale. Auf dem 3. Platz Finnland und das Rennen komplettiert auf dem 4. Rang Ungarn.
So just a roundup of those last results. It was a win for Klimovic of Belarus ahead of Kiradu of Greece. It was then 3rd place for Karppinen ahead of Bertus of Hungary. Oh, is that me? Okay. Good to work with you. So are you back? We've now got a 5-minute gap until we get underway with the first heat of the men's single sculls. So stay with us and we'll be bringing you the action from those men's singles in just a moment's time. I was like, I really need someone to talk with. We're back underway now with the first heat of the men's single sculls. A slight change in commentary lineup. I'm now joined by Sebastian Franke, who will be providing some fantastic commentary in both English and German. Sebastian, looking forward to commentating with you for the first time.
I'm really excited to be back with you, Camilla, and it's really good to have the opportunity to bring you the latest of the racing action. My last time as a commentator was last year at Poznan at the Europeans, and that was an honor and a privilege too. So here we are with the first heat of the men's single sculls. Who do we have?
So in lane 1, we've got Belgium. In lane 2, Tunisia. In lane 3, Romania. In lane 4, Sweden. In lane 5, Russia. And in lane 6, Finland.
Yeah, Robert Venn for Finland in lane 6 out there on the far side. But the fastest starter was indeed Alexander Vyazovkin from Russia, who leads this field. But it's not much for him over the other competitors, just a length or so. So very early in this race, Russia leads Tunisia.
Yeah, I think we find this with the single sculls, don't we? They open out and then they close back together for the final sprinting stages. So whatever we have going through this 500-meter marker, expect it to change. And it's still Vyazovkin of Russia that leads the way, the A finalist from the Under-23 World Championships back in 2019 in Sarasota, stepping up to senior level ahead of Mohamed Tayeb of Tunisia that goes through in second. It's then Mihai Chiruta of Romania through in third ahead of Wood Lemerline. Great to see him on the water after his fantastic performances at the Indoor Championships earlier this year, and Robert Venn through in sixth position. But we've only got one slot through here to the AB semi-finals. This is probably our largest entered event here at the championship, Sebastian.
Yeah, absolutely. More than 20 athletes vie for just the 2 qualification slots for Tokyo available in this boat class. So really tough competition. And Vyazovkin from Russia really took his heart here into both hands and grasped this chance to go out early, because in the single, as you know, when you're out there, you can see your opponents, you can control your own speed a lot better. And that's what he did, and already established a margin of some 30 meters, so some 3 lengths already at this stage of the race, 850 meters in.
But a great race going on for second. Not that that would put them into a qualifying position, but as we've already discussed so many times this morning, I think the mental advantage, even going into repêchages, or the time advantage, can make such a difference. And so for second and third at the moment, Mihai Chiruta of Romania starting to row through, the Tunisian Tayeb, who sits just to the other side of him here on the lake. They're in lanes directly next to each other, so a great race there for these 2 scullers, head to head, directly one-on-one. But through the 1,000-meter marker, a great margin here, almost 8 seconds now for Vyazovkin of Russia. It's then Chiruta who does claim second place ahead of Tayeb in third for Tunisia. It's then Wood Lemerline of Belgium. As I say, great on the indoor row, and he's only just started to come towards water rowing here, Sebastian.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw him at the Europeans, at the European qualifiers as well. And yeah, he's still learning, but it's great to have like a young athlete like this coming from a very strong indoor performance and then really taking that onto the water and improving by every race. And that's what he does here. He's coming a little bit closer towards the Tunisian. Definitely in second place, the strong rower from Romania, Mihai Chiruta from Romania, in second place. It's really tricky. FISA always says you have to, or World Rowing rather, you have to be performing at your very best in every round, because later rounds, so your results might be taken also for later rounds if racing gets cancelled or things like that. But in a repêchage coming up this afternoon already for this race, what do you do when you're in second place?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a case of racing to the best of your ability, but if there's nobody around you to race, and if you know that you're going through to the repêchage, you've got to be strategic about your performance. You've got to know where to push and where not to push. And coming into, we're almost at 500 metres to go now, I can just see the small dots of the single sculls on this beautiful skyline here on the Rotze. If you've ever been, you'll know the view that we're talking about, the glassy water. So sort of green shimmering up off the mirror surface of the lake, and these single scullers coming towards us now, and I can just see the lead that Alexander Vizovkin still has over the rest of the field, still pushing on, still opening that out, and Chiruta now comfortably in second place, ahead of Ward Lemelin, who's now pushed up into third. A great little move there through the third 500, and we were only saying earlier, Sebastian, it's quite mature to be able to do that when it's hurting the most.
Exactly, third 500. This is where your endurance comes into play that you've accumulated over the winter. But look at Vizovkin, and I've just had a glance at his split time at 1,000. That was 3:20, so that would have led him to 6:40, just slightly above 6:40 as a finishing time, which is a fast time in the single scull. So he's really up to form.
And he certainly looks up to form here as he just comes through. There's a slight sort of wind patch through 500. We can just see ripples on the water, but that calms down after 250 metres to go to a pan flat lake. And his single scull is just gliding through the water. He looks extremely powerful and extremely well set up here to take a fairly commanding win ahead of the Romanian that sits in second. It's still the Belgian in third, who's managed to put some clear water behind him to Tunisia's Mohamed Tayeb. Robert Venz moved through the field to take fifth ahead of Eskil Bork of Sweden. But to take you back to our leader and our clincher of the only spot through to the AB semi-final, a great performance there from the Russian Alexander Vizovkin.
And unpushed to 6:54 is also, so he's really in a good shape here, and he's sculled beautifully as well. I had the privilege to row here in the single, and it's not that easy even with good conditions, because you have to know where you are. So gauging where you are in the race is a little bit more difficult on the roadside, I believe, than on an artificial course. Ja, das war der erste Vorlauf zum Männer-Einer. Gewonnen hat Alexander Vizovkin aus Russland und qualifiziert sich damit direkt fürs Halbfinale. Alle anderen gehen dann damit in den Hoffnungslauf.
On to the next of our heats here in the men's single sculls. There's 4 heats in total, hence why only one progressing straight through to the final. And in this next heat, the second of our men's singles, it's Slovenia in 1, Belarus in 2, Spain in 3, Cyprus in 4, Great Britain in 5 and Moldova in 6.
Der zweite Vorlauf zum Männer-Einer ist unterwegs mit Slowenien, Belarus, Spanien, Zypern, Großbritannien und Moldawien.
Out in the lead at the moment, it's Jofre Esenciales of Spain, who sits in the centre of the lake, and what a nice position to be in when you're in the lead. I think that's why when we often seed athletes, we put the fastest athletes in the middle of the course, because they can see everything that's going on around them. And the Spanish sculler, who finished 12th at the Europeans back in Varese just a few weeks ago, just taking that experience and carrying it through here to this heat at the Rotsey, and just trying to push up next to him, Filip Pavuku, who just sits one lane away in lane number 2 for Belarus and keeps challenging a very experienced athlete, Filip Pavuku, coached by Alexander Fedotov. The 26-year-old has had a really successful season, having picked up medals at the first and second World Cup back in 2019. But yeah, looking to try and take that one step further, Sebastian.
Oh yeah, and he's challenging the Spanish stroke by stroke now, even drawing level. So again, it's just the first one that will go through directly to the semi-final A and B. So Spain and Belarus. So Jofre Esenciales and Filip Pavuku for Belarus vying for that single spot from this race. What are the others doing? Matthew Hayward of Great Britain is coming a little bit closer to the leading duo. And also beside him we see Cyril Vysotsky-Sestakov of Moldova and Rajko Hrvat, the former lightweight sculler from Slovenia, on the far side, also not far off.
Yeah, that chasing pack now. So 2 leading scullers out at the front of the field in Spain and Belarus as we approach 1,000 metres. But behind in the closing pack, it's Matt Hayward of Great Britain sitting in third, new into the single scull after a really successful under-23 career, a double under-23 champion in the men's quad. So a real rising star here for Great Britain. But he's only done 1 performance in the single scull so far. So coming to this final Olympic qualification regatta with limited racing experience at this senior level, Sebastian.
Yeah, I think I also saw him at the Europeans, is that right, this year? So he's definitely one of the talents to watch. And let's see what he can do in the repechage this afternoon, because it looks like it's going to be the repechage for him at the moment, barring any disaster. But at the head of the field, it's still very close between Pavuku of Belarus, now again in second place, just behind Jofre Senciales of Spain. These two really battling it out, taking it down the course now past 1,000 meter.
Yeah, there's nothing better than a close single sculls race, is there? Just thinking back to that Rio A final, there is nothing more captivating than watching 2 single sculls side by side with centimetres between them, which is what we've got here. Jofre Senciales of Spain has really had to put in a lot of effort to stay ahead of Pavuku of Belarus, because they know there'll only be 1 spot through to the semi-final. And I think there's going to be a tactical game at play here as to who has to sprint first. And Pavuku's just started to put the pressure on once again as he moves past Jofre Senciales into the lead for just a couple of strokes.
Yeah, this is also a battle of wills, a clash of wills, definitely. Who sustains this race pace a little bit longer, a little bit higher than normal race pace, if you will, when you want to overtake your opponent to be in that psychological advantage, have that psychological advantage. And here we are, Filip Pavuku of Belarus, about 2 seconds now at the 1,500 meter mark, ahead of Jofre Senciales of Spain.
And that is a real drop-off here. I'm just watching the meters fall for the Spanish sculler. I think we're talking about that willpower, that mental ability, and especially if someone takes you in the third 500 like Pavuku has just done. He's really trailing now. He's gone down to 30 strokes a minute. I think Pavuku's just broken him mentally in that third 500. And as we come towards the line, they're now within touching distance of the media tent and the 250 metre to go sign. Pavuku is going to be able to walk away with that 1 spot into the A final. I think Jofre Senciales has decided that he's going to save his race plan for the rep, perhaps, and leave Pavuku to qualify directly through to the A final.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to have that extra race, especially after such a long time of no racing action. So maybe it does Jofre Senciales some good here to be in the rep this afternoon. But here they come down the course, and he's trying to minimize the damage done by trying to lead for such a long time. So he takes the rate down to 31 at the moment. Both leading scullers were at 35, 36 strokes all down the course.
Yeah, one correction. I said through to the A final. Of course, I meant the AB semi-final. These single sculls. So many races to go through if you have to go through the rep. There are just they're brave men out here on the course, much ahead of them here at Lucerne. But that direct AB semi-final spot, and very importantly so, Filip Pavuku wins this second heat of the men's single sculls ahead of Jofre Senciales. It's then going to be Rajko Hrvat of Slovenia, the ex-lightweight, trying to qualify the open weight boat here for Tokyo. It's then Cyprus's Alexandros Zisimidis in ahead of Matthew Hayward, and finally Cyril Vysotsky-Sestakov of Moldova across the line in 6th.
Ja, Filip Pavuku aus Belarus hat diesen zweiten Vorlauf in einer gewonnen und qualifiziert sich damit ebenfalls direkt für das Semifinale A und B. Und dann die weiteren Sculler gehen heute Nachmittag im Hoffnungslauf an den Start.
On to the third and penultimate heat of the men's single sculls now. Another one person to claim that spot through to the AB semi-final. In lane 1, Venezuela. In lane 2, Canada. In lane 3, Ireland. In lane 4, Serbia. In lane 5, Bulgaria. And in lane 6, Chile.
Der dritte Vorlauf im Männer-Einer und wir haben Venezuela, Kanada, Irland, Serbien, Bulgarien und Chile auf der Strecke. 550 Meter sind gerudert und es ist der Bulgare Christian Vasilev, der dieses Feld ganz knapp vor dem Kanadier anführt.
So out at the head of the field, we've gone through 500 metres and it was the Bulgarian Christian Vasilev in lane number 5 who went through in a time of 1:40.04. The experienced sculler, 6th at the 2020 European Championships back in Poznan in October, so knows what it feels like to be in an A final, and someone who's also very familiar with being at a final Olympic qualification regatta. Sebastian, who he finished 5th at the one prior to Rio here on the Rotsee. So do you think that experience will help him along this course?
Oh yeah, definitely. Also because, I mean, this year it's a very big regatta, so everything counts, every second that you can squeeze out, maybe even by experience. Knowing where you are, as I said, is key here to gauge your race speed right, to get your race plan executed well. But again, we are in single sculls, so it's also about morale and about psychological power. Vasilev still leading, but it's Trevor Jones for Canada, who is also in contention here for the lead. Then it's also the Irish contender, Dare Lynch, who is also still capable of winning this heat. Needs some extra power on the middle 1000.
Yeah, I think anything less than 20 metres between single scullers, and that's a very easy distance. Well, I say easy, sat here in the finish tower. I'm not out there on the lake, but from a sort of spectator perspective, it seems to me that if you're within 20 or so metres, that can be closed down and turned over fairly easily if you're in the mix. So although at the moment it's Vasilev in the lead for Bulgaria, you're absolutely right, Sebastian. The former under-23 world champion Trevor Jones for Canada in this boat class, he won the single back in 2018 at those under-23 championships, is really starting to put the pressure on from lane number 2. He's been racing Ireland's Dare Lynch in the lane next to him. Dare Lynch sits in 3rd position at the moment. The Yale University student was 14th at the European Championships, new into this single scull and subbed into the men's double for Ireland, that successful crew back in Poznan. So he will be really relishing the opportunity to perform in the single, but still Vasilev for Bulgaria in the lead.
Yeah, it's been a while. I read that since Ireland last boated a single sculler with an Olympic perspective. So fingers crossed, of course, for all of those athletes out there. Definitely Vasilev of Bulgaria still with a nice margin. No, in fact, it's Trevor Jones who's closing in fast now and has taken the lead from Vasilev. These two scullers pushing their bow bolts out of the rest of the field.
Yeah, really high ratings actually before we've even reached 500 metres to go. We're up at 39 strokes a minute with Trevor Jones of Canada in lane number 2. He's decided that it's time to go early. Perhaps his coach Jeremy Ivey has decided that now's the time to push before you hit that 500 metre to go mark, where the whole field decides it's time to sprint. You've got to be the one to go early. So Trevor Jones using his experience now to lead out Vasilev into the final 500 metres, putting his marker down to try and secure that first spot through to the AB semi.
Yeah, and the rest of the athletes in this race have decided to save energy for this afternoon's repechage. So it's all about the two scullers from Canada and from Bulgaria. Now they are approaching the last line of buoys, the red buoys, meaning 250 to go. Usually that's about 30, 35 strokes. The athletes, even if they don't see anymore, eyes closed, they can count that down to gauge when the finish line is arriving. But while I'm talking, it was Vasilev of Bulgaria who decided to also call it a day for this race. Actually, call the race over, if you will. So he drops his rate, and Trevor Jones of Canada walks through and takes the lead here with 150 meters to go.
Yeah, that was very decisive. I think there was one stroke there where Vasilev just said, yeah, I think we've let Trevor Jones go too far. He's walked off into the distance, and so he cut his rate. He's now down at 29 strokes a minute, allowing Trevor Jones to also lower his rating. I think he's decided he's got enough water. I think they've all come to a bit of an agreement that Jones is the one to take that slot as he paddles towards us here in the finish tower.
It's beautiful sculling here from the Canadian, really upright position, not much a vertical movement of the boat here, so really good sculling. And he crosses the line in first place, so Trevor Jones qualifies directly for the semi-final A and B. Second will be the Bulgarian ahead of the Irish sculler. And then a little way back we see Serbia's Alexander Filipovic coming in fourth. And fifth will be the Chilean, Agustin Jose Betancourt. Sorry, that was the Venezuelan I mentioned. He will be sixth. The Chilean is Felipe Andres Cardenas Morales, and he comes in fifth. Der dritte Vorlauf gewonnen von Trevor Jones aus Kanada, und alle anderen Sculler werden wir wiederum heute Nachmittag im Hoffnungslauf wiedersehen.
Alexandra excited to see Nathan, right? The last of our heats in the men's single sculls, and the last chance to get a direct spot through to the AB semi-finals tomorrow. To save yourself a race today, once again this afternoon, in lane 1 the USA, in lane 2 Israel, in lane 3 Cuba, in lane 4 Poland and in lane 5 Austria.
Der vierte und letzte Vorlauf zum Männer-Einer ist unterwegs mit den USA, Israel, Kuba, Polen und Österreich. Und an der 500-Meter-Marke war es der Pole Nathan Wygrycki-Szymczyk, der die Nase vorn hatte, aber nur ganz knapp vor Carlos Andriel Achete Jauregui aus Kuba.
Yeah, out in the lead, and unsurprisingly so, I would say, is the Polish sculler Nathan Wygrycki-Szymczyk. Back-to-back silver and bronze medals at the most recent European Championships in Poznan and Varese, respectively. He's just been going from strength to strength since being in that Cambridge University Boat Club crew for the boat race, and then stepping into the single scull. Some really, really strong performances against one of the most competitive fields in the world. The men's single scull has been really fierce over the last few years since the last Olympiad, and Nathan just taking this race by the scruff of the neck. He's opened out 20 metres or so to his next competitor, the Cuban Andrei Ayete Yarugui of Cuba in lane number 3, out of the men's pair at just 21 years old. This is quite exciting for him to be in the single scull in place of the retired and quite formidable Cuban that we're usually used to seeing in Fournier Rodriguez, Sebastian.
Yeah, so the young man up and coming here has dropped his rate a little bit. So Nathan Wygrycki-Szymczyk is in the leads now by a little bit more comfortable margin, and I'm sure Angel Fournier Rodriguez will watch this or even listen in to our commentary. I don't know, but let's look at John Graves on the far side for the USA. He's upping his speed a little bit here, but still the fastest boat on the water is Nathan Wygrycki-Szymczyk's single scull.
Yeah, he continues to move away, like you say. And when there's only one spot through to the AB semi-final, I think it must be really tough to motivate yourself in the single to try and get back on terms, even if it's within reach. John Graves still at a fairly relentless pace, 35 strokes a minute. And he is the second fastest moving boat on the course, just about, perhaps not actually the Austrian. Lucas Reim now the fastest boat on the course. He does sit back in fourth, but starting to move up, trying to close the distance down. He's upped his rating to 37 strokes a minute, which certainly is the highest rating on the course. But he's got a few boats to get through if he wants to get anywhere near Poland's Natan Wygrycki-Szymczyk.
Rating 32, that's the Polish scholar, having control, having everything under control here in this race. And so he can watch his opponents. He's also in one of the middle lanes, so he doesn't even have to turn his head much to watch all other four opponents in this last heat of the men's single scull. Noch etwa 700 Meter, nein, Entschuldigung, noch etwa 400 Meter sind es, die das Feld hier zu rudern hat, und es ist nach wie vor der Pole Natan Wygrycki-Szymczyk, der die Nase vorn hat, der hier klar und deutlich das Feld anführt und sogar die Schlachtzahl ein bisschen herunternehmen kann, jetzt bei 30 Schlägen in der Minute.
Nobody to catch Natan Wygrycki-Szymczyk now. He is dominating this field with every single stroke that goes by. He lowers the rating again, rate 29 now. He's really quite comfortable, and in second place going through 500 metres to go, Lucas Reim of Austria, another rising under 23 that made the A final back in Sarasota in 2019, making that transition to the senior competition here and trying to qualify this boat for the Austrian national team. But a great third 500 from him to pull up into second place ahead of John Graves of the USA. Graves out of the men's quad for the USA, the man from Cincinnati, Ohio, just trying to hold this boat speed. He's up at 36 strokes a minute. He's still the only person on the course, I think, that's racing, to be honest here, Sebastian, because everyone else has lowered their rate right down now, under 30 strokes a minute.
Absolutely. John Graves tries to use this race to get his race speed and to find his race speed here. Still rating 36 at the moment. 28 strokes it is for Natan Wygrycki-Szymczyk. Beautiful sculling from him. Generally, the Polish rowing team has very good scullers, and he is one very good example. Winner of the B final, if I remember rightly, at the Rio Olympic Games. So 5 years on, here he is trying to qualify that boat for the Olympics for Poland.
Yeah, it was such a shame to see him missing out on one of those direct qualification spots in Linz in 2019, because he really has come on leaps and bounds even since then, and he is a world-class performer. But he's going to win this fourth heat with ease, over the line for Poland in first place. John Graves now just starting to settle, about 10 strokes out. I think he's realised that Wygrycki-Szymczyk is already over the line, and that first spot to the semi-finals is gone and done and dusted. Over in third, Lucas Reim put on a bit of a performance in that third 500 for Austria, but just settling down to save some energy for the reps ahead of the Cuban in lane number 3, and it's then in lane 2 Israel's Danny Friedman, another sort of historic performer in this event. He's been racing on the senior stage since 2010, so great to see him still here contesting at the Rothsee.
Ja, das war der vierte und letzte Vorlauf zum Männer-Einer. Gewonnen hat Natan Wygrycki-Szymczyk für Polen und qualifiziert sich damit direkt für das Semifinale A und B. Alle anderen 4 Sculler sehen wir ebenfalls heute Nachmittag wieder im Repechage, im Hoffnungslauf.
No rest at all as we go into our first of the lightweight women's doubles heats here. In lane 1, Australia. In lane 2, Spain. In lane 3, Brazil. In lane 4, Ireland. And in lane 5, Hungary.
Schon auf der Strecke bei etwa 450 geruderten Metern der erste Vorlauf zum Leichtgewichtsfrauen-Doppelzweier. Australien, Spanien, Brasilien, Irland und Ungarn sind hier die Teilnehmer. Es geht darum, die ersten 3 kommen direkt weiter ins Semifinale. Alle anderen müssen dann heute Nachmittag den Hoffnungslauf bestreiten.
Yeah, so to confirm, the first three through to the AB semi-finals from this heat, and as it stands at the moment, another great performance here from Ireland. They've been having a cracking season so far. They're favourites in many of the events for Tokyo already, and they've looking quite good in the women's four that we saw here this morning, and now this lightweight women's double pairing of Margaret Kremen and Aoife Casey leading the field by a very slight margin over the Australians Georgia Nesbitt and Sarah Pound. I certainly know we've got some Australians tuning in, listening to our commentary, Sebastian. I've had a message this morning to say that they're up and they're watching their lightweight women's double who came 9th at the World Championships back in 2019. A shame for them to miss out, but here trying to challenge for these top three places. In third, it's then Spain that hold on just ahead of Brazil in third position, and Brazil at the moment in the hot seat in fourth position, currently missing out on that direct qualification through to the semi-final as it stands.
Yeah, with a 59 kilo maximum weight, 57 in average, this is really a very competitive boat class, always good for exciting races. And this race is no exception. Australia now on the move, trying to get closer to the Irish. They are 3 lanes apart, so not easy to gauge. But then the other 2 crews are just a length down. That means Spain in third, Brazil in fourth at the moment, and Hungary hanging back a little bit in fifth. So we are about to approach the 1,000 meter mark. The boats are, and it's still Australia and still Australia and Ireland vying for further first place.
Yeah, Ireland will take that number one spot through the halfway marker, 3:32.72, the time for them to halfway. They just edge out Australia. They have managed to put a tiny bit more distance into them. Barely anything, though, if a seat, if that. But these top 2 spots, fairly comfortable ahead of third. Spain's Rocio Lara Sanchez in the stroke seat, setting the pace for Natalia Miguel Gomez in the bow seat for Spain. They currently sit in third place position and a qualifying spot through to the AB semi-final if they can keep up this pace. But the challenge from Brazil will prove tricky, as you already said, Sebastian. This boat class, with the weight limitations that it has on it, all of these crews have to be really precise and technical, because there's not much from a sort of physical aspect to choose between them, is there?
Yeah, usually on the erg they are quite close together. That's also, you can't put on more muscle mass as an open weight rower. You can train harder on the weights, for instance, and put on more muscle mass, which then makes you stronger. Here we have the limitations, but this is just great to watch out there. The Australians half length down on the Irish. So these 2 crew still in front. Then Spain and Brazil not far away from each other. Spain still holding on to that third place, which would bring them through to these to the semi-final. Directly. Whereas otherwise you would have to take the repechage this afternoon. So Ireland still leading Australia, but not by much.
Yeah, Ireland again just wanting to keep pushing that distance between them and the experienced Australians, which on paper, the Australians with the pedigree in this event just having missed out on that direct qualification from Linz, but Ireland using all of the regattas between then and now, really taking every opportunity at all the European Championships to keep building on this combination. Aoife Casey in the bow seat, the lady from Skibbereen, the 22-year-old, just trying to edge on Margaret Kremen to take them towards the line with as much distance as possible, and they keep opening out. They're up at 36 strokes a minute, but just using that 36 strokes a minute more effectively than the Australians, who also have the same rate of striking.
Yeah, still it's not done yet, although Australia seems to slip back a little bit here in second place. I mean, let's just remember the first 3 will go through directly, and the first 3 still look to be Ireland. Really beautiful sculling here from the 2 21-year-olds compared to the Australians, who have a 30 29:30 average, so much more experience in the Australian boat, and that's probably good for later results. Today it looks like the Irish have the edge here with 100 meters to go. Australia in second, and Spain still hanging on to that third place, being pushed by Brazil, who now put up a nice final sprint here on the last 100 meters.
Yeah, I don't know whether this sprint's going to be quite enough for the Brazilian duo to take Spain. They've put the rating up, but I don't know whether it's effectively turning into boat speed, because Spain continuing to respond and walk away. Our islands, Margaret Kremen and Aoife Casey, the double that won silver in Duisburg at the European Under-23 regatta, back together in their winning ways as they cross the line in that top spot. It's then the Australians, who look quite relaxed actually, coming through in second position. I think more to come from them ahead of Spain, that will take the final AB semi-final qualification spot. A little fist bump there in the Spanish crew to say job well done ahead of Brazil, and Hungary now just coming into the line in fifth.
Tja, das war der erste Vorlauf zum Leichtgewichtsfrauen-Doppelzweier, und die Boote aus Irland, Australien und Spanien haben sich mit Platz 1 bis 3 in diesem Rennen direkt für das Halbfinale qualifiziert, während Brasilien und Ungarn, die 4 Ruderinnen, sehen wir dann heute Nachmittag wieder im Hoffnungslauf.
Right back up to the first 400 metres now of the second heat of the lightweight women's double sculls. The same qualification pattern here, with the first 3 through to the AB semi-finals. In lane 1 at the USA, in lane 2 Germany, in lane 3 China, in lane 4 Poland, and in lane 5 the Czech Republic.
Der zweite Vorlauf ist unterwegs zum Leichtgewichtsdoppelzweier. Leichtgewichtsfrauen-Doppelzweier, so heißt es richtig auf Deutsch. Die USA, Deutschland, China, Polen und Tschechien, die Tschechische Republik, sind hier im Rennen. Und das deutsche Boot mit Marie-Louise Dräger und Katrin Volk besetzt liegt mit an der Spitze. Es ist ein ganz enges Feld. Bei 500 Meter haben wir die Damen aus Amerika, aus den USA in Führung.
Through 500 metres gone, it's a welcome return for the US combination of Molly Reckford and Michelle Sexer, who are just ahead of the Polish combination, and an experienced sculler in the bows there, Veronika Deresh, back again in this Polish lightweight double, along with Jacqueline Nicole Stalmajic in the stroke seat. This is a great little contest here at the front of the field between these two crews, but still nothing much to go back as well between China and Germany, that sit in third and fourth respectively. Very tight here at 500 metres gone, much less dominant from the US than we just saw from the Irish in the previous heat, Sebastian.
Yeah, absolutely right. And again, the first 3 will go through, and it's an incredibly tight race. Only the Czech Republic may be hanging back a little bit here, but the other 4 boats still within contention for those 3 semi-final A and B slots out of this race. The best boat speed still now is from the Polish team and the US team. These two are moving. The US still in the lead. Michelle Sexer on the stroke seat, very experienced sculler, also in the single scull, very successful. And they had the hard trial season this spring to come through and represent the United States of America for this Olympic qualification regatta here. So Poland, USA are the leading contenders at the halfway mark.
Yeah, so through halfway, the US, Poland, China and Germany in those top 4 spots, barely separated by a boat length. But like you say, Sebastian, I think we talked about how tough these championships are as a final Olympic qualification regatta and how cutthroat it really is. But even just to get onto the team in a lot of these countries, you know, Molly Reckford and Michelle Sexer have gone through a really rigorous US trials process to even be selected to come to try and qualify the boat for the Olympics, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as we said before, the weight limit makes it one of the most competitive boat classes, actually. So let's see how this pans out on the second half for the US and for the other crews. I think the US still have the best stroke rate to boat speed ratio here. And can have moved to establish a little bit more comfortable of a margin with a boat length, a little bit less than the boat length over Poland. At about 1,300 meters into this race. So first three would be then also China in the mix here, with Germany hanging back a little bit behind China in fourth and the Czech Republic in fifth.
I wouldn't put it past the Polish combination to start closing down that gap, though. The bow woman Veronika Dereš of the Polish crew, been racing at international level since 2006, so she really is probably one of the most experienced athletes at this regatta, let alone just in this competition for the lightweight women's double sculls. This combination sixth at the European Rowing Championships back in Varese, and actually if the United States, who lead through 500 metres to go, can sort of topple them off the top spot in this heat, that will give them a really good marker as to where they compare perhaps to the European field that is very strong in this particular event. Also through 500 metres after the US in first position, still Poland ahead of China. China sit in third position, that third and final slot through to the AB semi-finals with 500 metres to go, and I'm sure Pandandan in the bow seat, an experienced sculler in this boat combination who's been racing in the lightweight women's double sculls for a few seasons now, will be pleased to see that they potentially have a semi-final spot on their hands.
Yeah, she's seen so many good races, also medals, but still only 25 years old, so a lot of potential still for Pandandan from China with her partner Huang Wenyi. But these, they look set to be trying to get that third spot secured. Now the US have dropped their rate a little bit to a mere 35, which is not, they were at 38 just a moment ago, but they have this race under control. Looking over to their left, they can see the next competitor would be Poland in second place and China still in third, with Germany in fourth and the Czech Republic in fifth.
A really promising performance here from the USA. Good to have them back racing after a year or so without competition, and Sexa and Reckford will come past us here in the finish tower in front of the line in first position. It's going to be just a clear water gap, about half a length of clear water back to Poland, Stalmajic and Dereš, and then in third position Pandandan and Huang Wenyi of China to take themselves through to the AB semi-finals directly. Germany then in fourth position, Volk and Draeger will have to settle to go through the repechage ahead of the Czech Republic's Sanchokova and Nohotova of lane number 5.
Das war der zweite Vorlauf zum Leichtgewichtsfrauen-Doppelzweier. Gewonnen haben die USA vor Polen und China. Diese drei Boote also direkt durch Richtung Halbfinale, während das deutsche Boot und das Boot der Tschechischen Republik in den Hoffnungslauf gehen.
On to the third heat now of the lightweight women's double sculls. The final of these heats to get those spots into the AB semi-finals. In lane 1, Switzerland. In lane 2, Greece. In lane 3, Denmark. And in lane 4, South Africa.
Der dritte Vorlauf zum Frauen-Doppelzweier Leichtgewicht, und es sind die Schweizerinnen auf der 1, Griechenland auf der 2, Dänemark auf der 3 und Südafrika auf der 4. Auch hier ein ganz enges Rennen unter einer Bootslänge zwischen allen 4 Booten bei der 500-Meter-Marke.
Every crew still in contention here at this 500 metre marker for those top 3 spots. Making the best of it at the moment, South Africa's combination of Nicole van Wyk and Kirsten McCann in the bow seat, just leading by a mere 2 metres ahead of Denmark's Matilda Persson and Marie Morch Pedersen, sit in lane number 3. It's then only 2 metres back again to the Swiss combination of Frederique Roll and Patricia Mertz, 11th at the World Championships back in 2019. They've not raced this combination since Poznan, so it may be a little bit out of racing practice, back in 3rd place position, but barely a hair's width, and the lead changing now with every single stroke between South Africa and Denmark. Sebastian,
it's a fantastic fantastic race out there between South Africa, Denmark and Switzerland, because the Swiss now up their boat speed. They have made a push and took the lead from Denmark and South Africa, who are just level, bow to bow here on this course with 850 meters gone. It's those 3 crews that have established a 1 length margin over Greece. So 3 crews just about level, and then Greece hanging back and forth, but not far off either.
Yeah, definitely still within racing distance to clinch one of those 3 spots, Greece, if they have a good middle 1,000 metres. But Bill Lucas, the coach of the Swiss crew, will be very pleased to see them now out in front. Denmark are the crew that goes with them as they start to take the lead. These 2 crews separated by less than a second through 1,000 metres. South Africa just dropping back ever so slightly. Kirsten McCann in the bow seat, 5th at the Rio Olympics in this boat class. She won't want to miss out again, especially after such a long time that South Africa has had to face without any racing, and now here at the final Olympic qualification regatta trying to make the most of it. But out in the lead, Switzerland is now pushing ahead still. Denmark just dropping back ever so slightly as the Swiss lengthen out to 35 strokes a minute to Denmark's 37.
Patricia Mertz und Frederique Roll für die Schweizer hier in Führung, aber nicht weit weg. Die anderen Boote aus Südafrika und Dänemark. Immer noch ein wahnsinnig spannendes Rennen hier auf dem Rotsee bei der finalen olympischen Qualifikationsregatta. Der Vorlauf Nummer 3 verspricht auch aus lokaler Sicht alle Spannung zu haben. So the Swiss, Roll and Mertz still in the lead with 1,250 meters gone.
And Sebastian, this is the event where we have the slightly unusual 3 places up for grabs in Monday's finals, just due to a couple of different changes, with New Zealand now pulling out of their slot that they'd secured for Tokyo. It's now given somebody else the opportunity. You know, the Canadians have been bumped up and are suddenly finding themselves on the plane to Tokyo. It's great to have 3 places open in this lightweight women's double sculls.
Yeah, and if I'm right, it's also not the last time that they race at the Olympics, because as I understand, for 2024, for Paris, it's also already confirmed, right? This boat class?
Yeah, it is. We've managed to extend the lightweight double sculls into Paris. You're absolutely right, Sebastian. So they do have one more opportunity after Tokyo, where perhaps they thought they may not. But this would be fantastic for the Swiss, through 500 metres to go. And this would be in usual times where we'd be hearing the cowbells ringing in the grandstands, Sebastian, if it was a normal day at the Rotsee. But unfortunately, we'll just have to make do with the noise from the cowbells from the cows that sit on the far side of the lake here, that we've been hearing jingling throughout the day. In second place, it's then Denmark still ahead of South Africa. First 3 through to the AB semi-finals, with Greece still dropping back in 4th position. So I think these 3 places set, and a really, I'm sure, nice surprise for the Swiss that will be here, sort of, I say surprise, actually, hopefully not a surprise, because this combination has been performing fairly well, of Mertz and Roll, but it will be nice for them to have some confidence going into the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. And look how beautifully they scull. They are really a good unit here, working together. With a double scull, it's really tricky. You can't really make it go fast when the basis is not there. And these 2 have been sculling together for a number of years now, and find it easy to find their race pace, obviously. And they have this race secured, I believe, with 150 meters to go. Denmark still sitting in 2nd. And then we have South Africa on the far side in 3rd, with Greece hanging back and forth.
This boat class for Switzerland is one of their hot picks, one of the crews that they're really, really hoping makes it into Tokyo, and a great start for them. The first of potentially 3 races they will have to master in order to secure one of those 3 Olympic qualifying spots. But it will be a win here in the third heat of the lightweight women's doubles for Frederik Roll and Patricia Mertz, ahead of Denmark's Mathilde Persson and Marie Morsch Pedersen. In third, it will be Nicole van Wyk and Kirsten McCann, of South Africa, ahead of the Greeks Evangelina Anastasidou and Zoe Fitzu in lane number 2.
Ja, das war der dritte Vorlauf zum Leichtgewichtsfrauen-Doppelzweier, und es haben die Schweizerinnen gewonnen vor Dänemark und Südafrika. Diese 3 Boote also direkt im Halbfinale. Das griechische Boot sehen wir heute Nachmittag im Hoffnungslauf wieder.
Yeah, we definitely have an audience. So from lightweight women's doubles to lightweight men's doubles now, and we're through 500 metres. In lane 1, the Czech Republic. In lane 2, Brazil. In lane 3, the USA. In lane 4, Austria. In lane 5, China. And in lane 6, Japan.
Von den Damen kommen wir jetzt zu den Herren. Im Leichtgewichtsmänner Doppelzweier unterwegs die Tschechische Republik, Brasilien, USA, Österreich, China und Japan, die Gewinner der asiatischen Qualifikationsregatta vor 2 Wochen. Aber da die Japaner alle 4 Bootsklassen dort gewonnen haben, musste sich der japanische Verband entscheiden, und so ist es hier unter anderem der Doppelzweier mit Naoki Furuta und Mitsuo Nishimura, die hier an den Start gehen und auch jetzt schon eine gute Leistung hier abliefern. In Führung ist das Boot aus China.
Leading the charge through 500 and continuing to do so up towards the halfway marker, it's China's Fan Zhengji and San Man in lane number 5. The pairing came 12th at the World Championships back in Linz in 2019 and has not had an opportunity to race again since that race. So good to see them here leading the field after a sort of blind transition into the final Olympic qualification regatta. They're going to go through halfway in 3:10.66 ahead of the Czech Republic's Simonek and Vrastril of the Czech Republic. They were 4th at the European Championships just a few weeks ago. A fantastic performance and improvement for them after Poznan, where they finished 11th, and clinging to the coattails here of the Chinese double. In third, it's then Japan, unfortunately having to come to this final Olympic qualification regatta despite their great performance at the Asian Olympic qualification regatta. In 4th, Austria. In 5th, the United States. And in 6th, Brazil.
Again, very, very good race here on the waters of the Rothsee. People's Republic of China is the boat that leads this field. But the Czech Republic with Vrazdil and Simonek, they are in 2nd position, and that's the position you want to be in, at least if you're not in 1st, because the first 2 will go through to the semi-final A and B. The rest will go to the repechage. So still some chances here for Austria in 4th, for Japan sitting in 3rd at the 1,000 meter mark. Fastest boat on the water, though, is China, and Japan also now making another move.
Yeah, closing in now. The Czech Republic actually around China. China has had a healthy lead until this point, but the Czech Republic using their experience in the third 500 to push the rating up to 38 strokes a minute. They're matching China's speed now, but they need more if they want to take the lead off this Chinese pairing of Fan Zhengyi and Sun Man. But as they come through 500 metres to go, it is still China ahead of the Czech Republic, but only just. It's then Japan that sit in third. Can the Japanese do anything at all to get themselves a direct spot through to the AB semi-final? They're up at 36 strokes a minute now, and with the home games on the line, still a long weekend of racing to go, but a direct spot through would be certainly a good start for them.
It would, but they are dropping back a little bit at the moment. Fastest boat on the water is definitely the Czech Republic. Šimanek and Vrasti putting up a good sprint here past the 500-meter mark. That was their go sign, if you will. And they have passed China. No, they haven't. China has come back. So it's level between China and the Czech Republic for first and second. But this fight brings them further away from the rest of the field, who have decided to conserve some energy for this afternoon's repechage.
This is a stunning race here between China and the Czech Republic on opposite sides of the lake. They can't feel each other. They won't be able to feel the water off one another's boats as they're separated by 3 lanes in the middle of the course. But the Czech Republic going again. They've raised the rating 40 strokes a minute, and China have decided that that's the point to throw in the towel. There was a really distinct stroke there. China now down at 27 strokes a minute, just happy enough to cruise over in a qualifying spot. The Czech Republic have realised that's what they've done. Miroslav Vrastil in the stroke seat took a quick look there to see China had also lowered the rating, so they have done the same. So it's the Czech Republic take the first slot over China in second. Those are your top 2 through to the AB semi-finals. Japan, unfortunately, will have to go through the repechage in third position ahead of Austria. It's then the USA and Brazil that round off that field in the first heat of the lightweight men's double sculls.
Das war der erste Vorlauf zum Leichtgewichtsmänner-Doppelzweier. Und die Boote, die sich qualifiziert haben, waren die Boote aus der Tschechischen Republik und aus China. Diese beiden also direkt im Halbfinale. Alle anderen sehen wir heute Nachmittag wieder im Hoffnungslauf.
Why are they late? So we're a couple of minutes delayed here for this second heat of the men's lightweight double sculls. We're informed that the reason is a yellow card awarded to Egypt for being late at the start. So we'll be joining them in just a few moments' time once that race gets underway. Okay.
So the second heat of the lightweight men's double scull underway with France in lane 1, Denmark in 2, Estonia in 3, Australia in 4, Egypt in 5, and Finland in 6. Frankreich, Dänemark, Estland, Australien, Ägypten und Finnland sind hier unterwegs im zweiten Hoffnungslauf, der nun gestartet ist. Die Ägypter, wie Sie gehört haben, eine gelbe Karte bekommen für das zu spät kommen am Start.
So approaching 500 metres gone. It's a great start for the French lightweight double. A new pairing here in this double scull of Hugo Boré and Victor Marcelot. Slightly different combination to the usual French pairing we're used to seeing of Bourret and Huon. The Olympic champion missing out on selection here. The big news story in this lightweight double scull here for France. But the under-23 silver medalist in Hugo Bourret in the bow seat certainly doing a good job to secure his spot and take this double through 500 metres into the lead, something that has been eluding the French for quite some time in this boat class since the Olympics. Certainly a shame to see them sort of drop back through the rankings. But next up, Australia. This is a nice new combination here for the Australians. Sean Murphy and Parry here teaming up. Murphy out of the lightweight single scull from Linz in 2019 where he secured a bronze medal. A really good performance from him to earn a seat here in this lightweight men's double, the only Olympic boat on offer for the lightweight men. They sit in second ahead of third place Denmark. Another combination here that we're used to seeing in the lightweight events, Sebastian.
Oh yeah, Denmark being a great lightweight nation. Emil Espensen and Oscar Petersen, the contenders here for Denmark, and they are sitting just, let's say, a deck down from the leading French. Australia also, they're about level. Denmark and Australia putting up a great race here. Remember, just the first two will go through to the AB semi-final directly, and at the moment it's the French boat and the Danish that have the best boat speed.
Still all to come here in this lightweight men's double sculls event. We know it can be a really punishing event to enter because it's always so close. And yeah, you're right to look at the boat speeds there, Sebastian. It's still France out in front. They're underrating the field, mostly 34 strokes a minute, but Denmark also matching them there and barely behind them, only 4 metres separating them and the French, and alongside them as well, the Australians that sat in second place in that initial stage of the race, still right on the coattails of these leading two boats, and with only 2 spaces through to the AB semi-finals. That's certainly where you want to be in Australia, just being pushed out ever so slightly by Espensen and Pedersen of Denmark.
This is an incredible race, incredible stuff out there on the Roadsee between France, just slightly ahead of both Denmark and Australia. The Australians have come back, have upped their boat speed now, and are drawing level with Denmark for second place. So 3 boats vying for just 2 semi-final A and B slots from this heat number 2 of the men's lightweight double sculls. That's really great to watch.
Yeah, and I think what's separated those crews that have done really well in the heats this morning from those that have perhaps slipped off the pace has been this third 500, Sebastian, where it gets really tough. The crews that have come through to emerge and take those qualifying positions have always had a really good third 500. And that's certainly something that the Australians now are doing, and it's pushed them into the lead ahead of France now.
Fantastic race, good gauging of your own race speed. And as you say, Camilla, the third 500, where you have accumulated all that lactate over the first half of the race, then you really feel it. And on the other hand, the endurance accumulated over the winter needs to be put out there into boat speed. So this is like the most decisive point in the race, probably in many races. 12:50 gone. They are approaching 1500 and have even passed 1500 with Australia in a slight lead over France. Denmark hanging back in third, just half a length down.
Yeah, Hamish Parry in the stroke seat for Australia, just really pushing them on. 38 strokes a minute now. They needed to bump that up just to match the French to overtake them, which is exactly what's happened. But it's still a really good contest out here in the lead as France push back. They're now the fastest moving boat on the water by a little way, actually, and it's just giving them a slight advantage now back over Australia. This is exactly the kind of racing that we expect in these lightweight events. A tussle right at the beginning of the field for these top 2 spots. Denmark dropping back. I think they're off the pace now for these top 2 spots. They're letting the Australians and the French fight it out, and I can barely choose between them, Sebastian.
Well, in fact, the French have taken the lead again. Australia now just a few meters down, but racing at a very high rate, 40 strokes for the Australians. And it's the French at 38 that have upped their boat speed again, are now the fastest boat on the water and move away from the rest of the field. Denmark not having left enough petrol in the tank here for a final sprint, but it's Australia upping the rate again, looking over. That was a sharp look from Sean Murphy, the bowman. What can we do against the French here? Not much. Crossing the line in first place is France, ahead of Australia, taking the first 2 spots for the semi-final A and B here, the direct qualification slots, whereas Denmark and then also Estonia, Egypt and Finland will go through to the repechage.
That was interesting to see the French bouncing back from a couple of performances that have not been so hot to their standards, right, in this lightweight men's double scull. They really reeled out the length over the Australians in that final 10 strokes or so, and they looked so sharp into the water, didn't they, Sebastian?
Absolutely, and it will give Victor Marcelin and Hugo Berry a lot of confidence for the next rounds, the semi-final being held tomorrow morning.
So after that slight delay to the previous heat due to that yellow card, we are already almost at 800 metres in this next lightweight men's double sculls heat. In lane 1, Switzerland. In lane 2, Great Britain. In lane 3, Russia. In lane 4, Hungary. And in lane 5, Canada.
800 Meter schon gerudert mit Schweizer Beteiligung hier. Die Schweizer auf der Bahn 1. Dann Großbritannien, Russland, Ungarn und Kanada. Jan Schäuble, André Strusina für die Schweiz hier unterwegs. Und sie sind momentan auch in der 2. Position, ganz knapp hinter Kanada.
So the Canadians taking charge of this field towards halfway. Max Latimer and Patrick Keane in this double are actually from rival universities back home in Canada, from the University of British Columbia and the University of Victoria. So nice to see them joining forces to create a bit of synergy here in this boat. It's certainly doing them good as they lead the field over Switzerland, that sit in second place position. Again, it is only the first two that will qualify through to the AB semi-finals. So the Swiss crew of Andrei Sturzener and Jan Schäuble in lane number 1 will have to hold on tight to hold off the Russians that are trying to push back into that qualifying spot.
Third place at the moment, as you said, it's for Russia, I believe, and they try to chase the Swiss and the Canadians. Canada still in the lead, just now about half a length up on the Swiss, and then it's the Russians also hanging back a little bit, but not much. They're coming up, trying to get their boat speed up for the last third part of this race.
Yeah, the Canadians certainly with pedigree in this event. Keenan Latimer, a third in the B final at the World Championships in Linz, which was in fact their last race that they would have performed against other nations. And so to come back here and to slip back into the lead, it's such a challenge for all of these countries that are coming into this regatta blind with no idea how they compare to the European crews, the Asian crews, the South American crews. It's been really tricky, but Canada doing a good job of sticking to their race plan. They've managed to open up a few more metres now behind to the Swiss combination, who picked up a silver medal at the most recent World Cup. And with 2 spots to go through, these two still pushing out water on the rest of the field. It's then Russia and Great Britain that sit in 3rd and 4th respectively, with Hungary just hanging out the back of this field somewhat. But I think the place is fairly well set with 500 metres to go now, Sebastian.
Yeah, and the Canadians look strong and confident there in their first position, with the length up now on Switzerland, who hang on to 2nd place. So let's see what this last part of the race gives us from the spectators' point of view. I think the Canadians are now holding on to that lead. They're building on it. 37 strokes a minute, still the highest rating crew on the water. The Swiss have obviously decided to not give it their all. They have a very good understanding. So if one says something, then you really know exactly what to do, how much pressure you will ease off your handle here. And this is what the Swiss do. They are content with 2nd place at the moment. Canada leading the way home here with 100 meters to go. So Canada ahead of Switzerland, and all the other crews have dropped their rates considerably, conserving energy for this afternoon's repechage.
Yeah, and I think a sensible decision there from all of those crews, like you say, to conserve some energy. The Canadians, a great performance, and they still seem to be pushing fairly hard into these final few strokes. The Swiss will nab that 2nd AB semi-final qualifying spot, and I have been reliably informed we can still hear some cowbells from a few limited local spectators who are on the far side of the lake. So good to see them qualifying through to the AB semi-finals, these local favourites of Schäuble and Sturzener. It's then going to be the rest of these crews that process in to the final few strokes in front of the tower. Very relaxed from all of these crews. Next up, it will be Russia to cross the line at a very chilled 23 strokes a minute, and that's not too far from Great Britain's 21 strokes a minute as they come into the line ahead of Hungary.
Ja, das war der 3. Vorlauf hier im Männer-Doppelzweier der Leichtgewichte, und gewonnen hat Kanada vor der Schweiz. Diese beiden Boote direkt qualifiziert für das Halbfinale A und B, und die anderen 3 Boote sehen wir wieder im Hoffnungslauf.
So from lightweight doubles to bigger boats again, we've got the men's quad sculls now just coming through 500 metres. In the first heat, we've got Russia in 1, France in 2, Lithuania in 3 and Romania in 4.
Der erste von 2 Vorläufen im Männer-Doppelvierer und das Boot wird immer schneller, möchte man sagen. Die Bootsgeschwindigkeit hier die schnellste Schoolbootsklasse. Russland, Frankreich, Litauen und Rumänien sind die sich hier um diesen einen direkten Finaleinzugsplatz gegenseitig bekämpfen.
So it's the Russians out in the lead of this event, coached by Mikolas Macelonis in lane number 1. This crew fairly newly formed. It's sort of gone through a couple of different changes. The Stern 3 fairly well set and had competed since the sort of 2018 season, but the sort of bow person sort of forever rotating in this Russian crew just to try and find the fastest combination, and it's Nikita Morgachev that has found himself sat now in the bow seat, guiding them through in the lead of this first heat. In second position, it looks to me like it's the Lithuanian combination. Again, another combination you'd not expect to see at somewhere like the final Olympic qualification regatta. Hey, Sebastian?
Yeah, the Lithuanians, they have a great tradition in the sculling classes, especially in the double and also in the quad. But they find they're going pretty tough in this race, at least. So they're about a length down on the Russians. As I said, just the first one will go through directly. And the Russians at 37 strokes a minute have really established a nice rhythm here in this race, stroked by Pavel Sorin. And then the middle section is Nikolai Pimenov and Artem Kosov. So they have a lot of power in the boat, and they make the best use of it at this point with about 550 meters to go.
Yeah, we can't forget that 3 of this Lithuanian crew world champions back in 2017. So much power from that crew in Sarasota, but they've just been off the pace ever since. A couple of medals at the European Championships, but nothing too much to write home about. But they will want to be back at the Olympic Games after their 9th place finish back in Rio. It would be a shame for them not even to have the opportunity to race again. But as it stands at the moment, they are tailing to Russia, that still sit out in front. They're up at 38 strokes a minute, but they are not the fastest moving boat on the course. They have started to wind off the speed as France start to push up now. They are the fastest moving boat on the course alongside Romania. They sit level with Lithuania as well. These 3 crews really tight behind the leading Russian crew. So with only 1 spot through to the final, I'm not sure whether Russia are kind of resting on their laurels to think that they will get that 1 spot and letting the rest race it out. But we shall see as they come towards us here in the tower, Sebastian.
Yeah, I think, Camilla, it looks really comfortable what the Russians are doing out there. They have really a great rhythm here, and they even up their boat speed right as we speak, coming into the last buoy chain here. The red buoy is indicating the last 250 meters, and as I said before, it's like the athletes count that down sometimes to gauge their final sprint just right with 30 strokes, 20 strokes, 10 strokes, so you know exactly when to cross the line to put in everything that you have. The Russians don't need to in this race, though. Romania closing in on France here, but that's just for the record books. Both crews will find themselves racing in the repechage this afternoon, as will be Lithuania.
Yeah, I completely agree with you here, Sebastian. This Russian crew, you can hear their rhythm from even in the tower. You can hear the sort of blades coming in and out of the water. They just put on a bit of a show for us going over the line there, and as I say, fairly comfortable in first position, but just practicing that sprint. A great second place finish there for Romania, like you say, just purely for that kind of mental advantage, really. No direct benefit for them other than having a faster time through to the repechage this afternoon, but good for that new Romanian combination that has come together for this final Olympic qualification regatta ahead of France. And then the Lithuanians, down at 22 strokes a minute, and we'll have to see if they're hiding anything ready for the reps. But what a sort of surprising tale there from a very experienced crew.
Das war der erste Vorlauf zum Männer-Doppelvierer. Gewonnen hat Russland und damit direkt im Finale Frankreich, Litauen und Rumänien bestreiten den Hoffnungslauf. Nun wollen wir schauen, Wer die weiteren Teilnehmer am A-Finale sind, im zweiten Vorlauf sind unterwegs die USA, Tschechische Republik, Estland und die Ukraine. So second heat already underway, Camilla, with the United States, the Czech Republic, Estonia and Ukraine contending again for just one place for the A-final, one direct qualification slot.
Well, I'm keeping my eyes closely peeled on who goes through the 500 metres timing marker first, because we've got a great race on between Estonia and Ukraine on the far side of the lake from the tower for that top spot. And I think it will just be Ukraine ahead of Estonia. Estonia perhaps favourites coming into this final Olympic qualification regatta after some great performances earlier this season. But the United States as well, we cannot write them off. They're still in the mix in third place position. Only half a second behind the leading boat through the 500. So really all to play for here still.
Yeah, and I believe all four crews have raced each other at the Zagreb stage of the World Cup. So not long ago, with Estonia taking, I think, even the win there, and they are now the fastest boat on the water, trying to overtake the Ukrainians. I think they have just managed to do that. Ukraine in second place, just a few meters down. The USA still within contention. They are a very competitive crew. They had a very good middle section at the Zagreb World Cup, where they managed to close in into the leading crew, and they were just beaten narrowly by the Germans for the bronze medal.
Yeah, this boat class continues to be extremely competitive, and you can never predict who is going to win. And we certainly found that at the Europeans, where that very imperious Dutch crew that we all expected to come away with the golds got knocked off the podium by the Italians. So it's really not one where you can predict what's going to happen. But Estonia now starting to settle into that middle race pace rhythm. They're at 36 strokes a minute, and they've opened out a lead that's slightly more comfortable, just less than a boat length between themselves and Ukraine as they go through that halfway marker. The Estonian crew, coached by Veiko Sinisalo of lane number. So the Estonians sat currently in lane number 3, still pressing on. Their boat speed still the fastest on the course. And in fact, actually, if you look at those metrics, it's then the USA that's with the second fastest boat speed in third place position. So we'll have to watch between them and the Ukrainians who comes out on top. But all starting to file out now as we go into this third 500 metres, with the Estonians building more and more on their lead in that first spot.
So much experience and power both in the Estonian boat. Kaspar Taimso, the stroke, having seen his share of World Cup and World Rowing Championships medals, as well as having been to the Olympics. And then the middle section with Alar Raya and Tono Hendrickson. So much power giving, supporting that rhythm set by Taimso, and the bowman Jurimik Udam. He's the younger man in this crew, if you will, and giving that little touch that you have to have as a bowman, the technical touch to this crew.
Yeah, definitely. And you need that technical touch when your stern 3 are bronze medalists from the Olympic Games, certainly being slotted into that kind of crew. You want to be on your toes and performing to the best of your ability as to form a crew that's going to qualify. And I think, to be honest, Estonia will have come here to win at the Rotsey at this final Olympic qualification regatta. I don't think they will settle for anything other than a win overall. So this heat is just part of that process, Sebastian.
Absolutely, and it's good to have that extra race when it comes to racing at Tokyo, which they might if they win here. So let's just rest on the age difference here in this Estonian boat. It's 15 years, the difference in age between the oldest member of the crew, Tono Hendrickson, and the youngest one, Jurimik Udam. So this is really great to see how youth and experience team up here to make a really fast boat, leaving the other boats in their wake. United States still sitting in second, and the Ukrainian third. It's not much to choose between those two, though. It's Ukraine in second place, USA in third, and then it's Czech Republic in fourth.
So back to processions in front of the, well, I say grandstand, it's actually the media centre here during the pandemic. We've got no spectators, no grandstand here on the tower side of the lake here on the Rothsee, but in front of the media that are covering this event, each of these crews just taking the rating down and making sure that they reserve their energy for later stages of this very important competition. Estonia, indeed, as predicted, do take the win in this first heat for them, and Ukraine will then come over the line in second place. Not good enough to get them into that AB semi-final. Sorry, that A final, and it's then the USA ahead of the Czech Republic.
Der zweite Vorlauf zum Männerdoppelvierer sah die Esten siegreich und die haben damit ihre direkte Finalteilnahme gesichert, während die anderen Mannschaften, die Ukraine, die USA und die Tschechische Republik, in den Hoffnungslauf müssen.
Very appropriate song. We're now moving on to women's double sculls, and it's the race. This is the preliminary race for the women's double sculls. In lane 1, Germany. In lane 2, Nigeria. In lane 3, Hungary. In lane 4, Russia. And in lane 5, Great Britain.
Erster Vorlauf zum Frauendoppelzweier mit deutscher Beteiligung. Anne-Kathrin Thiele und Leonie Menzel. Anne-Kathrin Thiele schon eine Silbermedaille 2008 in Peking hat sie gewonnen. Nigeria auf der 2, Ungarn auf der 3, Russland auf der 4 und Großbritannien auf der 5.
So just a preliminary race here for these 5 crews. The only 5 crews entered into this final Olympic qualification regatta. So fairly good odds, actually, if you've entered the women's double sculls to try and get your ticket to Tokyo. And leading the charge in this particular event at the moment, well, it's the Russian combination of Chikina and Pitromova of Russia. This combination raced in the women's quad at the most recent European Championships, and both of them never having raced the double scull together before, I don't believe. So interesting to see them entered into this event here in Lucerne. Next up in second place position, well, it's too tight to call really between Germany, Great Britain and Hungary that sit practically level as we go through 500 metres.
So just the first one goes through directly, correct? So it's the Russians at the moment. Sorry, apologies, of course not. It's a direct race here, so we have to see what the race pace actually means that they set. Do they want to give it their all, or do they want to experiment a little bit here? Russia, Piterimova and Kuroshkina in the lead still, over Great Britain and Germany being level in second place. And then we have Hungary and Nigeria on places 4 and 5.
Yeah, the doubles that raced at the European Championships, well, we had the Hungarians, the Germans and the British all there contesting, and in fact actually the Belarusians as well, but the most successful of those combinations were in fact the British, who got a bronze medal at those championships. Saskia Budget and Holly Nixon newly into this combination for that championships, and it seemed to have paid off with a bronze medal in Varese. So they've stuck with it through to this final Olympic qualification regatta. But as it stands at the moment, they're going to have to do what they did in Varese in order to prove their worth, as it was Germany who were one of their biggest rivals there that they pushed back into 5th position. But right now, it's the Germans that are leading the British in 2nd and 3rd position. Hungary just dropping off the pace back with Nigeria, but it's still Russia taking the lead through this first 1,000 metres.
Yeah, fastest boat now on the water is the British boat. They closed the gap, if there was any, to the Germans. So these boats are nearly level, with Russia still in the lead here with a very good rate of striking. 35 is a very good rate for the double to keep the boat moving really well, and that's what they do, and try to get away from the rest of the competition here. Still, Britain and Germany level for 2nd and 3rd places.
So unusually so for this race, no qualifiers through to any final, because all of them will go through to Monday's final. This is just a race for times, a race for lanes, as it were. But this preliminary race at the moment, nobody to challenge this Russian combination as it stands at the moment. Still fairly level between Germany and Great Britain. Germany just taking the edge, which is what they did not do back at the Europeans, as I've mentioned. But with the experience of someone like Annetta Kiradu in the bow seats, the Olympic champion from the women's quads back in Rio. It's again another athlete that we don't expect to see at something like the FOQR, but there's so much talent and there's so many strong athletes contesting this regatta this year in particular, that it's going to be really quite challenging to get your space in the Tokyo Games. But as we move through to 500 metres to go, I'm not sure that anyone's really going to make any moves here. I think it's fairly set as it is, and they'll be saving saving their hand and saving what they perhaps might plan to do for Monday without showing it to anyone else. Sebastian?
I think the British might prove you wrong on this, because the other nations certainly have settled into a certain rhythm, but the British now up their rate to 37, 38 strokes a minute even, are now the fastest boat on the water, and have left the Germans in not quite in their wake, but have left them a little bit behind here. Try to close the gap towards the Russians, still in the lead. Russia now striking also 37 strokes a minute. So Russia leading Great Britain with 300 meters to go, and then Germany in 3rd place, hanging back a little bit. And then we see Hungary in 4th, about 100 meters down, and another 100 meters it's Nigeria in 5th place.
Just a few specks of rain hitting the glass panes here in the tower, in the commentary box. So I'm sure that these athletes will be appreciating the nice flat, calm conditions that's creating. 250 metres to go, or less than now, for Russia, that have led this race from start to finish. But the British crew proving me wrong, like you say, Sebastian, and I'm happy for them to do so, because that's exactly the move that they made in Varese that gave them that bronze medal. And I think that this is a really interesting combination for the British, and one that perhaps they weren't expecting, as both fairly new talents to the team on the far side of the lake. They're now gaining overlap over Russia. I think they might have left it too late to overhaul them as we come into the line. It's going to be Russia, followed by Great Britain and Germany.
Das Preliminary Race hier im Frauen-Doppelzweier wurde gewonnen von den Russinnen vor Großbritannien und Deutschland. Dann kommt in wenigen Schlägen hier das Boot aus Ungarn über die Linie, und noch ein paar mehr Schläge zu rudern haben die Damen aus Nigeria. So before we come to the next race, which is the women's quad, let me just quickly update you on the latest change to competition schedule for Sunday and Monday. So due to the latest forecast of possibly unrowable and unfair conditions for Monday, 17th of May, the World Rowing Executive Committee has decided to change the racing schedule. Finals planned for Monday, 17th of May will be moved to Sunday morning, 16th May. Semi-finals will provisionally start at 9 o'clock and finals at 10:10. A revised schedule will be issued then shortly. So stay tuned. All finals are drawn forward to be happening tomorrow morning, Central European time. So another review of the weather forecast will take place this afternoon, and then the schedule will be finalized this afternoon.
So we'll be keeping an eye on the weather conditions throughout the day and into later on this afternoon. So keep your eyes peeled on that schedule. But we'll move swiftly on now to the racing that we have ahead of us, which is the women's quad scull. This is another preliminary race in lane 1, Ukraine, in lane 2, France, in lane 3, Australia, and in lane 4, Norway.
Ein weiteres Preliminary Race, ein vorläufiges Rennen, wenn man so möchte. Alle 4 Boote werden wir dann im Finale sehen. Wie wir gerade gehört haben, wird das Finale dann morgen stattfinden, anstatt am Montag. Die Ukraine, Frankreich, Australien und Norwegen sind die Teilnehmer an diesem Rennen.
So again, this is another race, much like the previous, in that we have no sort of qualification. This is just purely a race for time, a race to see where the standings are, and a chance to get a race in before the final. So out in the lead through the 1,000 metres, Australia, and those tuning in from Australia will be very pleased to see Caitlin Cronin's crew, who strokes and is at the helm of the Aussie crew in lane number 3, out in the lead ahead of France in lane 2, just a couple of seconds back, and then respectively Ukraine in 3rd position with Norway in 4th. But Australia looking fairly comfortable out in front. They're 35 strokes a minute, still the fastest moving boat on the course. But the French, they'll do their best to keep in touch, won't they?
Oh, absolutely. And they have raced at the World Cup and I believe also at the Europeans. So they try to get some more racing experience and action here together as a crew and maybe throw a challenge at the Australians on the on the last say 30% of this race that's left still. So Australia looking confident and strong here. The crew, as you said, stroked by Krohn, and she's really setting a great pace here with good support from the middle of the boat, and then the lady in the bow is stabilizing the whole boat with every finish that she does. Really, really nice sculling out here on the Rothsee.
Yeah, some lovely sculling coming from all of these crews, but especially for those who have travelled such a long way, such as the Australians. They've put a lot on the line in order to try and qualify this boat for Tokyo. Travelling halfway across the world during a pandemic is certainly something that we need to lay a lot of respect to. And so great to even just have them here, but for them to be leading this field as it stands at the moment, the crew coached by Andrew Randall out in front by now just about a length or so, I'd say, ahead of the French that are just dropping back ever so slightly. Their boat speed has just come off the gas a little bit, but this French crew, silver medalists at the World Cup in Zagreb, in quite a small and short field, only a couple of crews really contesting that, and they were split up for the European Championships back in Varese. They sort of experimented with the double and the quad, so good to see them back together, and they've decided that this is obviously the one that they want to focus on for this qualification. But nothing at stake here in this preliminary race as we come into 500 metres to go. It's the Aussies showing good form and looking very good for tomorrow's finals.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how much energy the crews put in. Is that all they have, or is it a pace that they set themselves, and see how far it gets them? It's a chevron-shaped field now with Australia leading the way home here, 2 lengths ahead of the French, and then Norway in third position at the moment, with Ukraine hanging back in fourth.
Some really lovely sculling going on here by the Australian crew. The crew of Caitlin Cronin, Harriet Hudson, Rowena Meredith and Rhea Thompson. Clear water break ahead of France and Norway that race for the line. It's going to be a photo finish here for second and third. I think Norway is just rode through France there on the line to nab second place. But as we say, it's all fairly... It's all fairly unrelated to what might happen tomorrow, because everyone will have approached this very differently, wouldn't they?
Yeah, most likely. And with the new schedule now, it's 1 day less rest that affects the rows, but they are also highly skilled and trained, so that's probably nothing really to talk about here. But let's talk about the Australian 6:28. So about 3.5 seconds up on indeed the Norwegians taking second place ahead of France. You gauged that exactly right there. And then it's Ukraine in fourth place. Das war das vorläufige Rennen, das Preliminary Race für den Frauen-Doppelvierer, und die Australierinnen haben hier gewonnen, und dann waren es Norwegen und Frankreich auf den Plätzen 2 und 3, Ukraine in 4.
We're down to our final 2 races of this morning session before this afternoon's racing, and we've now got the women's 8 preliminary race. In lane 1, Russia. In lane 2, Romania. In lane 3, Germany. In lane 4, the Netherlands. In lane 5, China.
Ein weiteres sogenanntes Preliminary Race im Frauenachter, bereits auf der Strecke Russland, Rumänien, Deutschland, die Niederlande und China.
And it is the Chinese crew that has come out of the blocks with some purpose here, Sebastian. They're up at 38 strokes a minute and the fastest moving boat on the course as they rattle towards 500 metres gone, ahead of the European, gold, silver and bronze medalists in Romania, the Netherlands and Russia. This is all very, very close.
Yeah, very close, and in fact the Chinese are showing a lot of determination here. I've seen them training yesterday, and they did they did a 16k round actually yesterday morning, and did some really hard work again to bring them into European time and into race shape, if you will, and they lead this field here by about half a length. Second place at the moment for Romania. Then we have Germany in third, and then it's not much to choose between Russia and the Netherlands.
Again, it can be so surprising sometimes, can't it, with 4 of this crew having been in the mix in the European Championships over the last couple of races. You think you have a fairly good idea of who's on form, and then someone like China, who have been training away from the European sort of regatta scene, come in and put in a performance like this. It does make you think, doesn't it, what the European crews may need to do to get back onto terms with China in the second half of the race. But do you think, with this being a preliminary race, perhaps say the Romanians, the European champions, are holding something back, Sebastian?
It could be, although I believe it would not be their style really. I mean, the Romanians always want to win, especially in the women's age where they have such a great tradition, and they try to put some pressure on the Chinese still in the lead. And as you said, Camilla, it's really tricky to gauge your own race pace after having trained on your own somewhere, no international competition. So it can also be that if you go out too hard and too fast, that's going to pay. You have to pay for that in the second half of the race. And again, we are in the middle, or in the third 500 meters of this race, where everything that you have invested before is either paying off or you have to pay for it.
Yeah, and that's not something you want to be doing, is it, when you've got another very important race upcoming. And now, like you say, with the finals being a day closer with the revised race schedule, putting a lot out on the water today without any recovery time, really, you know, this group of athletes, they might not even have known that the schedule's changed, actually. Just thinking about that, they'd have been on the water before that announcement came out. So
exactly.
They're going to put this out there thinking that they've got a day's rest tomorrow and they'll come off the water and their coaches will be like, well, actually, plans have changed, right?
Exactly. This race is this final is gonna be rowed tomorrow at 12:10. If nothing changes this afternoon, as I said, the final confirmation will be given later today after another consultation with the weather forecast people. But here today, the weather looks absolutely gorgeous with respect to the water conditions. We have an overcast, cloudy sky though, and a little bit of rain, but not much. Just a few drops here. Nothing to hinder the athletes. Nothing to make the handles too wet or something. But China really pushing, but they get some stronger opposition from the Romanians, who definitely want to win this race as well. The Germans getting under pressure from the Netherlands, and then it's Russia hanging back a little bit.
Yeah, the Romanians have certainly been toying with trying to press through, but they just are not getting anywhere. They're hanging back 15 metres back from the Chinese. They've really tried throwing the kitchen sink at it, we would say. You know, 41 strokes a minute, very typical of the Romanian style, especially in the eights. And they're really going for it now into the last 250, but this Chinese eight, too strong to conquer. They're down at 39 strokes a minute, underrating the rest of the field. The Netherlands also starting to put their rating up now. They sit in third position ahead of Germany. The only boat not on pace really here are the Russians, Sebastian.
Yeah, that's correct. Let's look at the Chinese really rowing as a unit there and fending off any challenge thrown at them from the Romanians. Romanians half a length, 3/4 of a length down actually as I come towards the wire. It's China taking the win here in the preliminary race of the women's eight ahead of Romania. Then the Netherlands, who have overtaken the German boat, some difficulties there in the middle section, and then it's Russia in fifth place. So that was the preliminary race of the women's eights.
Yeah, and that closes off that women's eight preliminary race. An interesting set of races to come, I think, in tomorrow's semi-finals and finals. I'm already looking forward to it. Despite the forecast, I'm sure we will have some great racing to bring you here on the audio commentary. But we're on to our final race of the day now, Sebastian. Well, not final race of the day, final race of the morning session, apologies. We've still got the repêchages to look forward to this afternoon, but we've now got the men's eight lining up on the start.
The men's eight, we have four boats. It's China, Romania, Italy, and New Zealand vying for the two places out of this race. So this is going to be interesting. They sit on the starting blocks and get ready for their race. So once again, the reminder, the finals have been moved forward from Monday to tomorrow morning. So that means that the semi-finals will start at 9 and the finals will most likely start at 10:10 in the morning until 12:20. That's the start of the men's eight tomorrow. So for all of you listening out there on worldrowing.com, the last anecdote of the morning, we have 3 yellow cars in this upcoming race, which has just started the preliminary race of the men's coxed eight. So China, Italy and New Zealand all will later start and receive yellow cards. But that didn't hinder them from having a good start. New Zealand fastest out of the blocks, followed by Romania, China and Italy.
Yeah, I think this New Zealand men's eight is maybe one of the best kept secrets of speed of the entire regatta. I know a lot of people who will be tuning in, hanging on the result of this preliminary race. New Zealand have really thrown thrown everything at this. They've brought the successful pair into this men's 8 just to try and qualify it. They've got the experience of Hamish Bond in the 3-seat, and so they've put all of their eggs in one basket, as we'd say. Sorry, apologies, the 2-seat, and then we've got Breaker Murray from the pair, silver medalists at the World Championships. God, you've got to be confident, haven't you, to take a crew out of a World Championship medaling boat to put them in this 8 to try and qualify it, haven't you, Sebastian?
Absolutely, and I believe that they are really happy to be racing here at this event. And also not much travel possibilities from New Zealand. I think they just have established the travel bubble with Australia, but nothing else. So they're here, and they perform extremely well at the moment. 500 meters marks passed, and they have a little bit more of than a canvas over Romania, and then already 3/4 of a length down we see Italy and China in 3rd and 4th places.
Yeah, I think as it stands so far, this preliminary race, perhaps what we'd forecasted for the event, a very strong showing from New Zealand, who, coached by Anthony O'Connor, have been the only boat sent to this regatta partly because of the restrictions, but partly because of the shape that the New Zealand team is in and the sort of selection process that they've gone through. But also the Romanians up at second place as well, which, if the same performance was replicated tomorrow, would be good enough to get them on the plane to Tokyo. Silver medalists from the European Championships in Varese, second only to the British crew that came out and won that regatta just a few weeks ago. But they have been on form, and they again silver medalists back in Poznan too, so plenty of form from this Romanian crew. We were expecting them to be quick, and they build throughout the race. So although only 10 metres back at halfway now behind New Zealand that go through the 1,000 metres still in the lead, they could potentially look to close that down. They're up at 41 strokes a minute, very characteristic, as we would say, of these Romanians.
Yeah, I was about to say that they're rating that high all down the course here now with 1,150 meters road. It's Romania with a half a length down on New Zealand. New Zealand at 39, taking that rate all through. And Sam Bosworth, the coxswain, will make his team row harder in the next few hundred meters, because this is usually a point where they make a move and where they have to make a move to establish a bigger margin here. As I said, half a length, and a length down for China and Italy, nearly level with regard, nearly bow to bow here in this preliminary race of the men's 8.
Blink and you'll miss it. We're almost at 500 metres to go. Such quick racing here from these men's 8s, and it's almost a race of two halves. We've got New Zealand and Romania out at the forefront of this field. Romania trying as they might to stay up at that 41 strokes a minute to try and stay with New Zealand, but New Zealand wanting more water out at the front. And then back behind, as you say, Sebastian, still level between Italy and China. A great race there, developing stroke by stroke to bring them level through 500 metres to go in 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, usually after 1,500 meter, you make a push power 10, try to up the boat speed and take that increased rate of striking with you, and up the rate as you can towards the finish. New Zealand's looking really well, very fast catches and very clean waterwork there. And it's New Zealand who move away from Romania at this point just a little bit. Romania upping their rate again. It's 41 strokes a minute, 42 strokes a minute now. This is the final sprint of the final race of the morning session, and it's the battle between New Zealand and Romania for victory here on the Roadsay in the men's 8 preliminary race.
Yeah, we always say this about the Romanians, don't we? We're like, where have they got to go? They've been at 41 for the entire course, but they're at 44 strokes a minute now, trying to eat into that lead that New Zealand have got. But they look so good, like you say, Sebastian, looking up the course towards the start, and now at them coming into these final red buoys. The sort of backsplash on their sharp catches was compared to the other crews, it barely made it look like the other crews were placing the blade in the water. It's just so sharp. And as they come past us here, the acceleration that they've got is immense. This is really great stuff here from this Kiwi crew as they cross the line. Just a length ahead of Romania, the European silver medalists. That will have rattled some feathers of the Romanians, I'm sure. And then in third place, China win out that battle between themselves and the Italians for that third and fourth place in this preliminary race.
Yeah, if you come third and fourth with such a margin to the leaders in a preliminary race, you might have some thoughts and some doubts on yourself. So they have to. So I'm pretty sure the coaches will cater to that and rebuild confidence there overnight.
So I think that's the end of our morning session of racing here at the final Olympic Qualification Regatta in Lucerne. Join us again this afternoon. We have got more racing lined up. The first repechage of the men's pair kicking off at 4 p.m. European summer time. So if you are tuning in around the world, make sure that you come back onto worldrowing.com to tune into our commentary. If you're here with us on the water as a supporter, a coach, one of the organising committee, make sure that you get back to the lake for 4 p.m. and we will see you all very soon.
Ja, das war das Preliminary Race im Männer-Achter. Gewonnen hat Neuseeland vor Rumänien, China und Italien. Und damit verabschieden wir uns erst einmal hier aus dem Turm. Camilla Hadland und mein Name ist Sebastian Franke. Wir hatten das Vergnügen, Sie heute durch den Vormittag zu führen. Vor mir war Regula Schweizer hier am Mikrofon, die uns auch später noch in der Woche begleiten wird als Kommentatorin. Wir sind jetzt erstmal fertig und machen aber weiter und bitte seien Sie pünktlich. Um 16 Uhr geht es weiter mit dem Hoffnungslauf zum Männer-Zweier ohne. Wir sagen Tschüss und eine gute Zeit. Bis dahin.